Chloroform here,
Uh-oh.
and I'm here with the
Almost
Exorcist
couldn't hear
Reviews.
you.
Yeah, there's always something gets screwed up, man, one way or the other. Let me go get Fred up here. He's been here through the whole thing. All right. Yeah, I've actually been looking forward to having a conversation with someone about the Exorcist that knows more than me for a long time, and I
Yeah,
think
we'll
you're
see
the
about
guy.
that.
I know quite a bit. I've seen all the stuff. Let me see all the documentaries. I even own Leap of Faith. So
Oh yeah.
and that is really good. I love the way they went the way they went about that. Cool. What we got here. This is going to be pre-recorded because these shows that I'm doing, I want to do one a week on all 20 of my favorite films, not in any order, because Exorcist is top 3 always. Not in any order, but since you wanted to go live and talk with the chat, that's the way we're going to do this.
Sure.
So.
I probably won't be able to see it from the side. I'm just watching it from the StreamYard, so you probably can see what's going on in chat more than I could.
Karen
hey,
says
it's
hello.
Karen.
Fred says, "Your cell is mine." Nanette in the chat. How you doing, Nanette? Hey, everybody, how's it going? Ginger Ninja, how's it going, brother? My this is going so slow. Let's see, how's everyone? Good, man, real good. Been looking forward to it. Real dynamic shit to talk about. So, don't forget to bless that like button with the like button with a click. Thank you very much. Absolutely. Hey, my son in the chat. Rick Kane, we used to do some things together. Was going to do a watch of The Exorcist. I did a watch about a month and a half, 2 months ago. Let's see, everybody saying hello to everybody. Mayanne, how you doing, Mayanne? Ready to learn something about The Exorcist today? Because I guarantee you're going to. Here, I'm just still trying to get myself together. Everything hit the last minute, and I had to do everything, take care of everything. Hey, how's it going? Daniel, right? Right. Okay. I do believe. All right. I'm all caught up now. So it's nice to meet you, man. My name is Keith.
Good to meet you too.
So the name Baron von Darth
Led.
So
yeah, that's a story unto itself. Has nothing to do with the Exorcist.
I'm definitely kind of curious though. Where did Darth come from? Are you also a Star Wars fan, or?
You know, it was kind of like that. When I was 19, I was growing my hair out, and my nephews started calling me Uncle Led. You know, like with Led Zeppelin.
Oh hell
and
yeah!
So, so somewhere along the lines, we had the idea of like, we gotta make it a little bit more darker. We'll make it Darth Led. You know, but that wasn't enough. I had to go Baron von Darth Led, and that in the spelling on that's just a corrupted, version of Baron von Darth Led. You know, I had to throw in. I was originally the O in the von had an umlaut, right? And then you had like the A and the E kind of come together, so it's kind of like doing that Motley Crue thing, you know, where you misspell it and you got all that going on. Yeah, I tried doing that, and then. Originally, it was like a MySpace name. And then the vampire community caught hold of that. And I ended up getting hauled into the vampire community. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yeah. I know a little bit about it. Well, MySpace, I hadn't heard that in a long time.
Yeah, I know. Is that even still around?
I think it is, but now I think it's kind of like a pickup type area now. I think it's kind of like what do you call those sites where you just go to meet people to hook up with? Oh, it's like a hookup site.
Oh, it's like that now, huh? Wow.
I do believe that's from what I heard.
Okay.
Got a good friend of mine. I don't know if you know him, Phil from Phil's Creepy Vids. His favorite film is Exorcist. Also,
yeah, mine's been since 9 years old.
That was
a traumatic thing.
I two most influential horror films ever is the original Halloween and The Exorcist. I still remember when I seen The Exorcist. Seen it in the NBC. I was probably about 4 or 5 years old, so it meant 77 or 78. So, because I was born the year that it was made. So, and it made an impression on me. It definitely made an impression on me. It still creeps me out in a way. I still remember that face from a 5-6 year old kid. You know, I still remember that face, and it still has a deep. It still does, and that's why I love it. I think, you know.
Yeah, the Reagan face has haunted me for years. You know, in dreams, whatnot. I had a hard time sleeping at night. I'd have to turn the radio on right underneath the pillow or something, try to get my mind off of it. You
Really,
know. Oh yeah, oh yeah, it was bad.
yeah, it drives me crazy to hear younger people talk about, oh, it's not scary and all this. It's like, yeah, but you wasn't a kid back then either. It's a lot
Yeah,
different. It's the scariest film ever
definitely.
made. In when you compare it like that, it is easily the scariest film ever made. When you put it, all right, you say it's not the scariest film ever made. Put yourself there with those people with that happening, and tell me how fucking scary it'd be.
Oh yeah, especially when they try to ground it more so in reality than what you see in anymore. You know, it's like all
Right.
the special effects blowing out. You know, so and even back when I was growing up, some of the scarier stuff that just kind of haunted the back of my head were like, say, Trilogy of Terror, the one that
Oh,
everybody seems to remember is that doll.
yeah.
Nowadays, I don't know what they would think of it. It'd be like, oh, look, it looks like the Muppet Show or something, you know, anymore. Or
Also,
let's see,
memorabilia.
there was two particular TV movies that had come out. I forgot the girl's name. It was like Kim Darby, I
Uh huh.
think. It was that Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, where she had those gnome like creatures in her house, and they would
Right.
call
Right.
her, you know, Sally, Sally, and then you'd see her face, their faces like in the wall and whatnot. And they're just kind of staring back. There's no music or anything playing. It's just you're just looking at them like, and you start thinking
Yeah.
about your own house, and it's like, God, is that
Yeah.
happening
Yeah.
here? Or one of my favorites back in the day had Pamela Ferdin in it. Do you remember who that is? She was
Family.
like in everything back in the late 60s and 70s. Um,
Okay.
she even mentioned in her Facebook that she had uh, been called out to try to go for the casting for the Exorcist for Reagan, but she was too well known, and
Right.
instead she ended up doing the voice of Fern on um, what is that, Charlotte's Web.
Okay.
So if
Wow.
you hear her voice, you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. You
Right.
know, or
Right.
if you've seen, okay, probably the things that I remember, say, if you're an old Star Trek fan,
Uh huh.
there was an episode where they came down to this planet, the parents were dead or something like that, and all the children were left behind. They brought the children back, and along with the children, or the children brought back some kind of weird evil spirit that kind of looked like an Aleister Crowley looking ghost.
Yeah.
And so they'd call it, you know, with an incantation, you know, that hail, hail, fire and snow, that one. And it would show up anyway. She was in that. She was the little girl that was saying, "I'm a bee, and I'm going to sting you." But back to the whole Exorcist thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
she kind of was under the impression, you know, it's like she didn't want to do it. She didn't want to do the part. But
Right.
according to her back then, you didn't have a choice on what you got to pick or whatnot. And luckily, she didn't get picked because she didn't want to do it anyway. And so back to the original story I was trying to get to, the one film that she was in, I think it was called Daughter of the Mind. I
Okay.
don't know if you remember that. It came out like in the late 60s.
No, I
But
don't remember
basically it was, she played this, it was almost like a ghost of this child that this guy had, that she got killed somehow. And these it was like spies or somebody were using this hologram to, you know, convince him to do what they, it's a bizarre story, but just having the whole paranormal part of it, that
Some
did me
cool.
in on that. It was bizarre.
Yeah, that's funny that you mentioned the casting of Linda Blair, because there's two different stories. Linda Blair says she didn't, you know, and I don't mean to jump directly into something, you know, this racy or whatever, but how she didn't know what masturbation, all that stuff it was, and she had no idea what she was doing. Yet Friedkin at like a convention told a story where she come in and it's when her mother brought her in, and he was talking to her about, well, do you know what this all about? And she's like, well, yeah, I've read the book. You know, I read it. And he's like, really? And what'd you think? And she said, well, you know, it's about a girl that, you know, gets possessed by this thing, and she starts doing really bad things. And then he's like what? And she said, well, she does this and that, and she masturbates, and he's like, really? Do you know what that is? And she's like, yeah. And he said, well, do you do that kind of stuff? And she's like, well, yeah. Doesn't everybody? So which is right here?
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. I remember that
That's what
too. And that's always been an issue because I notice in some cases, it almost seems like Friedkin will not quite just exaggerate, but he'll almost lie in some cases. Like if you go back in some of the magazines when they had that issue with Eileen Dietz, he
right,
was saying that Linda Blair did everything.
right.
And this was
Well,
like
I think
early
you got to
on
give her the credit.
74. And then he
Right.
finally broke down and tried to, he broke down and it was like, okay, I admitted that she had done so much of this, the whole, what was it? Mercedes McCambridge situation.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of get the impression that he was trying to protect his film. He was trying to keep
Right.
the, everybody under that guise was like, okay, you can't see what's happening behind the curtain and I'm not going to
Right.
let you. He wasn't going to admit how the
Right.
effects were done. It was kind of like those slowly but surely admitting things. But he put a lot into it. Even reading about how when it first came out, he'd go to the theaters and check out to make sure that they were running it properly, or if they had a new screen, they had to get a new screen for some of these places because they had shoddy screens. It's like
Well,
investing that much money and stuff into it. It's just crazy.
that's more like old school Hollywood. They did used to do a lot more protecting of it. It was almost like wrestling with the kayfabe. You know what I mean? They
Mm-hmm.
protected their craft. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but for him to make up a whole thing of this whole conversation that he had with her, I always thought maybe the truth was somewhere between the two of
I think so too, because she's saying this, yet okay, if you already read the book, you already know what's going on.
them.
And
Right.
from what I understood, and this is another thing I wanted to do, is if I can get a hold of Pamela and Ferdin to find out if she had to read the book as a requirement to how to see it. But I don't know how far she actually got.
Right.
I think she was turned away right away. It's like, okay, she's too well known. I don't want
Right.
somebody this well known because it's just going to take people out of the film. It's like
Well, and
hiring uh what Jack Nicholson as Karras. You're going to be taken
right.
out of the film right off the bat. I mean, he was
Robert
in a
Redford,
lot of stuff.
Robert Redford, or something like that. Yeah, they had Redford, they had Nicholson. It was like getting home and wanting to do the part.
Right.
Yeah, but as far as casting Reagan, from what he said, it was damn near impossible to find what he was looking for. The point to where everybody else, like Owen Roisman, everybody was like, why don't we just get somebody that's 18 that can do all this stuff that just looks much younger? And he said, no, it's not going to be the same. They're not going to have that childlike innocence feel to them. And so he just kind of lucked across Linda Blair because she just happened to be a little more mature. She happened to, she was a little more seasoned, So basically, she just showed up one day, from the way I understand it.
Yeah, the
So
way I understood, they were going to look into using someone older at the time.
yeah,
They
yeah,
were
yes,
running
he
out of
said it.
options. I think she just happened to come in there at that point where it's like, we got somebody. We got to get this movie going and whatnot. But I don't really trust her being so innocent. I could totally
Neither.
believe the story about her understanding what she read.
Right.
Because
I
there's
knew what it was.
points in the film where it's kind of like she's kind of overdoing it a little bit. I don't remember acting like that when I was 12. Maybe when I was 9 or something, but
Yeah, I
not
remember
not.
back what you're talking about with Eileen Beats too. I just remember that when I actually remember back when I was a kid and all the way up till I was a teenager, they were still acting like she had done everything. Linda Blair had done
Oh
everything,
yeah,
and I mean, Deese was coming on talk shows and going, "No, I was in it too." And the parts that she's in, like for instance, she's the Pazuzu face. She's the like when she's got her head turning when he's doing the cross on her head, turning and the
oh
green
yeah.
piece
Mm-hmm.
whatever else. That's Eileen Dietz. So yeah.
Even the silhouette where you see Pazuzu showing up the statue, that was supposed to
Hmm.
be Dietz.
Right.
Like in something conforming enough to kind of give an adolescent,
Yeah.
where she wasn't so mature in the form. But
Yeah.
then I
It's
don't
like
know how well developed she would have been then at that time. That looked like they were pretty close as far as physical form in
it's
that
like
sense, especially in stature. Yeah.
you want to hone it in on him, Blatty, and his people, and Linda Blair, and he didn't want to count like for instance Mercedes McCambridge, she wasn't. I guess she wasn't even in the. I don't remember her not being in the credits. So I guess she wasn't even in the credits,
No,
which I don't remember because I was still so young.
I think part of
But,
that was to try to keep that the whole enigma going when it came to the
right,
film. You know, keep you guessing in a sense. You know,
right,
because you're going to assume if you knew that ahead of time, you're going to be taken out. It's like, oh, you know, they're using somebody else to do this voice. Oh, okay. You know, it just totally took me out. That's one of the reasons I don't really care for the version that you never seen,
really,
where they add
okay,
all the imagery. That takes me
yeah,
out. I mean, really,
really,
this isn't. It doesn't benefit anybody except the viewer. You know,
right.
it's like with the
There's
face. It's like the
yeah,
face appearing in the kitchen, you know, when the lights are flickering. She doesn't know that's happening.
right, right.
And it's
That's
like,
all.
ooh, did you see
Yeah,
that? You know?
right.
Yeah, but I don't
And
remember seeing.
then the image on the inside of Reagan's bedroom when when she comes in, she shuts the window, and she's leaving back out again. As
Yep.
she goes out of the room, you can see it appear there. That's not in the
Yeah.
director's cut. That's the difference between the director's cut and the version you
Yeah.
never see. Is it has
Yeah.
those imageries. That's the
I
only
think it
difference.
was so unnecessary to do that. I mean, it's like, and it really wasn't subliminal.
Right,
You know, there was a reason why they called it the 25th frame. You
right.
know, it's just a blip. You know, it
Now,
was just like a blip. I
do you
think who
like the
did it really
scenes?
well. Sorry, who I
Oh, go
think
ahead.
really did it well when it came to imagery like that was whoever did the movie Hereditary, where
Right,
you see the ghostly figure. It's kind of like you can catch it best in your peripheral almost. You know, it's like
right,
you see it, but you don't see it. It's just got that. It's like in between moment in that
right.
image. I think they did well in that.
Ari Aster did really well on that stuff. I do believe it was Ari Aster. Now, now, do you agree with Blatty or Friedkin? Not you said that you preferred now. Okay, between the 1973 version and the director's cut, which one do you prefer?
73, definitely the
No.
73. There's just too many. There's like odd moments that just kind of takes it out. I wouldn't have gone back to the house in the beginning and then gone to Iraq afterwards. I mean, you're going to find out anyway.
Okay. How
I
about
did like the moment when they're sitting there, Karis and Marin sitting on the in the
that's what's
hallway
happening?
and having their little discussion. And it's funny if you really think about it, this shuts down Exorcist 2. And I don't know if you've ever seen that short that I put on my page, where I got a bunch of shorts. There's one where Karis is sitting there and he goes, "Why this girl? It makes no sense." And then he gets an answer. He gets a Exorcist 2 answer where Marin's telling him how he went looking for these people because of their great goodness and all this. And Pazuzu was sent out to destroy this goodness. And after he finishes that, you hear that like the record screech across there. And and Karis is like, "What?"
Yeah. But I
Because
can see
it
it
pretty
made
much,
me realize.
if that scene had come out with the original release, I think Exorcist 2 might have been a different movie altogether.
Exactly.
Especially when say you had Lee J. Cobb was supposed to be in that film, but he died before
Right.
they started production. And so it's like they were bent on all kinds of stuff happening. It's like, okay, we're gonna have to rewrite it again. Because he
Right.
was kind of playing a pivotal role there. He was like a main character trying to,
Yeah.
I guess the idea was for that film, they were going to have that and any footage that was unused and try to put
Right.
together a movie using that. It kind of like, say, something under the lines of that Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Right.
I think it was going to be like that. It's going to be like a lot of flashbacks or something to that effect. And the other thing that really bothered me about the Exorcist 2 film was, why did they not acknowledge Karis? Why was there
Right.
so much focus on Marin when Marin, okay, he died of a heart failure?
Right.
Wouldn't you think they'd try to explore why Karis was jumped out the window? That's something I would have put more focus on than having Marin. But maybe they couldn't get Jason Miller.
I was always
Maybe
curious
he's
about
a
the aftermath, because that's the first time I really thought about it of why Kinderman was there. was to arrest Reagan, and I didn't think about that. And after I seen that video of yours talking about that, I was like, "What? That's why he was there." So then I'm wondering, since he's there and he goes upstairs with Chris, and they look and Karis has already jumped out the window. I've always wondered what went on after that. You know, like this big investigation. I was always curious what happened with that. You know.
Yeah, that just seemed pretty skimpy as far as like when it came to Kinderman's side. You know, there was a lot less focus put on that part, and that's one of the reasons why I was hoping that the TV miniseries would have made it out.
Yeah.
And that's how basically that's how my channel started up. It started
Oh,
up
okay.
over a rant because it's like back 2016. Here's the trailer for The Exorcist, and I was all excited, and I'm waiting. I kept thinking it was going to be the miniseries because Blatty had written a TV miniseries probably back maybe as close as 2009, and they show it. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
What in the world is this? And so I had to get online and say something. So I started with that, and I started reviewing the episodes. And no, I'm not a fan of the show. It took it a different direction. I didn't like what they did with Chris McNeil. I was real nitpicky because I'm kind of a purist when it comes to the novel and the film.
So am I. Yeah.
I didn't like where they were taking
Halloween.
it. It made no sense to me. And I also kind of got that impression this was like on the cusp of when we were getting into the whole message and the woke and the progressive part, because I couldn't understand at the end of the first season, the last episode of the first season, when Pazuzu's telling Angela / Reagan that she can't do this, she's only a woman. Now, why would he say that? You know, unless, you know, there's something underlying. And then I came to find out that Gina Davis was an activist, you know, so I was like, okay, I think I know where this is going. And that's the thing that I'm hoping won't hit as far or won't happen in the what they're calling the Legacy trilogy now.
Yes, I'm not. Oh my God. I would like to have seen the miniseries that Blatty and Friedkin was going to make together. That's the one, you know, when Blatty got sick and died.
Right. And so that's the video I'm working on now.
Cool.
Thing is, if I'm going to grab a couple things here.
Here,
now, for anybody's watching, look for this book.
Okay, cool.
This is the screenplay for the 21st century. This is probably about as close. It was published by Cemetery Dance, the same publishers that do the magazine. Also look for this one if you haven't found this. It's issue 62.
Okay.
This is just chocked full of great info and stuff that Blatty had written. There's even some alternate endings that he wrote in here.
Very cool.
If anybody out there is collecting magazines, comics, you might even have this issue, but it's a great issue. I recommend it. This basically is the screenplay we didn't get. It's kind of got a contemporary
first one that Blatty wrote
to it. Yeah. Thing is, though, now that it you know, as time has passed, it's a little outdated, especially when there's name dropping.
Right.
You know. So that I'm sure, you know, it's a screenplay. Somebody's going to probably take that and just kind of tweak it a little bit. Hopefully not too much if it were ever to come to fruition. But this next video that I'm working on, I'm going to discuss, you know, all the differences, say like between the original film and this, which is basically, it's the expanded version. It's supposed to be the entire book. But he's also added a few things. It's almost like, okay, elements from, say, the first draft of the original film is in there. A little bit of Legion is in there. Cool. And even the 40th anniversary where he had tried to clean up the first book, because basically his novel was a first draft. You know, he kind of rushed that through. I mean, even with the ending, where when they're discussing, when Karis and Marin are on the steps and Karras had asked Marin, what's to keep the demon from jumping back into Reagan? And
Right.
so I think
They
this
just
was
don't. Yeah.
it wouldn't happen. According to
Right.
Marin, it rarely happens and all this and whatnot. I think that was his way of ending the book, because it's like he was planning on a few hundred pages, and the guy he's talking to is like saying, no, you can't do that. It's just
Right.
keep going on and on. But so I think that was his out to kind of resolve what was going on. Okay, so Karras knew that if he could get the demon out of her, he can take the demon out the window, and that was it. It wasn't going to come
Right.
back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I thought that was interesting when it said that. When he said it just never happens. With his experience, it had just never happened. Because
right.
of course, Gareth wouldn't have known that.
But on that one video, it also says, and here another book too, if anybody's out there collecting. This is a great book right here. It's got a lot of what was going on. It's even got the first draft in it, and then he compares it later after you read the first draft, what they changed and put into the film. But yeah, the whole Exorcist rant just led me down a rabbit hole. I got too invested in it, because I was like, here I am reviewing some TV series that I didn't agree with, and then I'm investing so much time and whatnot into the story, what was going on behind the film, all that whatnot. So that's how I got started with this channel. There was
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, anyway, originally a lot of my rants ended up on my Alaska After Dark channel, but that was more in the whole vampire community focus.
Right.
So I've got interviews on that from people in the vampire community. But then I started putting so much time and effort into the whole Exorcist portion of it that it's like, this doesn't really belong. I got to start up another channel or something, either end this YouTube channel or start a new one. So I went ahead and just started a new one. That way I can kind of focus on not just the book, but if anything else comes out on television.
Right.
Another thing I've been looking for, say, when it comes to television, is that Dick Cavett interview that we keep hearing about.
Dick Cavett, wow, yeah.
The one where
remember when? Yeah.
Yeah, the one episode that he had Blatty come on as a last minute guest. I'm still trying to figure out where that is. And I've already had it confirmed in 2 places. Now, Mike Blatty, his son Mike, told me that he saw it live. And then I found a audio bite of Dick Cavett reflecting on that episode. So yeah, it must exist. It might not. At first I thought maybe somewhere along the lines, somebody got, say, Merv Griffin or David Frost mixed up and thought it was like Dick Cavett, somebody remembered wrong, but apparently it's not. And so I've actually gone through a list of, old episodes from back, say, 71, when this was supposed to have happened. Can't quite match the names yet. And I've even messaged Dick Cavett to see if maybe he'll respond. So far, nothing. But I haven't given up yet.
Seems like that show would exist somewhere. You know what I mean? Because that talk show went on for a minute, didn't it?
Yeah. He had to I think it was, they called him in, or called Blatty in, because the guest had canceled for some reason. They had issues with another guest on there. Supposedly it was Robert Shaw, but I haven't been able to find anything on that. And so that gave Blatty a lot of time to kind of reflect and talk about his book. Probably got 30, 45 minutes or so. And supposedly, as the story went, I don't know if you're familiar with the story, the book wasn't doing so great. But once he got on the show and promoted it, it shot it up, on the bestsellers list. If it was started at 4 and then it shot up to 1, and I think it lasted there for about 10 weeks, something like that. So I was able to locate, that list. And so that helped me kind of try to figure out when that episode played out, because from what I understood, it was 10 days after that, people were really getting into the book.
Oh yeah. Man says, where's Reagan Baron Blunt?
Which Reagan? I got lots of Reagans behind me.
Yeah, yeah, he's got a
Oh,
hell of
in here with us. How about that? Well, she's watching the show. Sure.
my oldest son is a huge fan of the version that you've never seen. He says there's no better version. Ocean Chick says it was and still is terrifying. Oh yeah, always. Because I have this thing when I watch a film, I put myself in the place of the character. So if you do that, you know, Fred says there is an episode of Shutter series Cursed Films where they talk about the making of the Exorcist. Yeah, yeah, I've seen that one.
Mm-hmm.
Blusher says, "Hey everyone, never seen hello, hello. Hey Jamie, how you doing? Hey King Gore, how you doing? This thing at work, awesome, awesome. Let's see, down here, right, done. Okay. Fred says, I think that what makes the movie a classic is it does not feel like a horror movie because it begins with archaeological dig. Well, it wasn't intended to be a horror movie, actually.
Yeah, it would have been more like a thriller, but then
Yeah,
it hits all the right notes to make it a horror film.
well, it definitely turned out more that way. You know what I mean? And basically, they were just searching for the mystery of faith. They were just
Right.
checking that out. You know what I mean? He never intended because Friedkin wasn't much of a horror film kind of guy. You know what I mean? All of his movies, he never sets out to make a specific kind of movie. He just kind of ends up how it ends up. You know, I'm a big fan of him. I think he comes off like a really intelligent, really deep person, man. He says, I've read that the movie was inspired by a true story about demon possessed. Yes, instead of a girl, yeah, it was a boy.
Yeah, it was one of those situations where he wanted to kind of do like a documentary thing. I think it was Blatty, and they wouldn't release a bunch of stuff, so he had to go with what he had. And so when it came to the characters, it's almost like he wrote what he knew. You know, he
Right,
knew Shirley MacLaine and based Chris McNeil around her. There was even I can't remember the guy's name that Burke Dennings was modeled around, but some of the dialogue that's in there actually happened. You know, some of the dialogue that he put in between in the novel
right,
were actual conversations that he kind of overheard, and he just kind of worked it in. And so supposedly Sachiko, uh, well, Sachiko, it would be like say a combination of Sachiko and I think the kid that experienced the real possession at the time, the 1949 case, Ronald
right.
Hunkler. At least that's what they're saying it was. It's kind of like Reagan's a little bit of both, and so it kind of. If I don't know if you'd seen that one video that I did where it came to the Legacy trilogy, since they weren't originally, Linda Blair wasn't going
Right.
to be in it, and they brought the mom back, and so I kind of went down that rabbit hole, asking, okay, what if Blumhouse were to take it to where they just followed the whole Blow and Doe case all the way down? Because I always imagined her to be kind of like the Sybil character,
Right.
where she's very recluse and she might be teaching art because we kind of get the impression that she was really into art, so she might have
Right.
been teaching in some school somewhere, and then maybe passed away because I couldn't understand. Okay, this dad who supposedly has a possessed child, and they didn't acknowledge whether it was a boy or a girl, but supposedly there's this one gal that's going to play the possessed child. Um, Question is, okay, why is he seeking Chris McNeil out? How did he find out about this? How does
Right.
he know to seek her out? And I
Right.
would
Yeah.
think Chris wouldn't have any of that come out, to the public.
Exactly. How
That
did
may,
it come out to where the whole public knows that it was a possession and all this kind of stuff? You know what I mean?
and that's like one of the things I didn't like about what they were trying to do with that TV series, where Chris McNeil writes a book about her daughter, and you've got all these
Mhm.
haters out front. That didn't happen at the end of the movie when they're leaving the Georgetown house.
Now,
And then
what is your thoughts on Legion? The way that goes. Do you agree that it could have went that way? I mean, do you agree with that whole story with with
oh, as
with
far
the
as the
terrorists?
the novel
Well, well,
or the film.
sure. I mean, or just either one. the director's version of Exorcist 3. Yeah, I mean either one and or because do you agree about the demon bringing Karis's body back and then the Gemini killer going into him? I mean, do you agree with the way they went with that?
I kind of like what they did there, but the thing is, when they were, I don't know, let me see if I got that copy floating around somewhere. Oh, my film's back here somewhere.
Jimmy says,
pull this.
Jimmy says, "Thou shalt not blaspheme. The Exorcist 2 shall be the whole of the law." Yeah. I forgot that Jamie said The Exorcist 2.
But okay. So I think it was in the special features where you're supposed to be able to see. I don't know if you can see that on there. Yeah, on this particular one, it's the Blu-ray. I don't know. Do you have this copy?
Yes.
Okay, so in the special features,
mm-hmm.
I think there was that one where it was what Blatty wanted to film, opposed to say what the producers were trying to get him to have, like this father mourning.
Right.
From what I understood, was not in the book. They just they said it's an Exorcist 3. We need an exorcism.
Yes.
And so from what it looked like, from like a lot of those old the footage that they didn't put in, I think it was like on VHS or something.
Yes.
They try to splice it. I personally would have had a hard time buying that Brad Dourif was Father Karras, playing that part, just because to me they don't look the same at all. I mean,
supposed to imagine it.
I really right. It's still, but you're supposed to buy this. It's like I just couldn't wrap my head around that, because I'm when I see Brad Dourif, I think of Billy Bibbit for one. I think of Billy Bibbit from Cuckoo's Nest. I think of Chucky,
Shift,
or Lord of the Rings. The what was his name? Grimer Wormtongue or something like that. I think of these people
I don't
before
remember.
I even think of Father Karras.
Right.
And so, if I remember correctly, they had a hard time dealing with Jason Miller because he had gotten too far along in his alcoholism, that he got that, I think they described it as wet brain. And I even noticed that in, I think it was Beyond Comprehension, one of those videos where they interviewed him. He didn't quite remember everything correctly.
Right. And you could tell he was getting a little worse for wear.
Yeah, you could see he was starting to slur and whatnot. Yeah, he was getting to that point. And so when they were, and if you had watched the special features, they were talking about, they used somebody to play him in makeup on certain scenes. And I can't remember the guy's name, but he wasn't always sitting there during the exorcism. They had somebody else actually sitting there in makeup in his place.
Yeah. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, they had somebody, because I guess he wasn't able to do a whole lot of it. Because Blatty hadn't intended on having him at all. Dourif was going to do the whole thing, like
I had a hard time with that. I wouldn't have been able to accept that. I like the idea of him, where they flip the images back when he's being Jason or James Veneman, I think it was. Yeah, yes. when he was portraying him, that was, to me, that was like, oh yeah, it's like you kind of like picking up on it. That's what it's like, him on the inside of Jason Miller's character. I like how they kind of spliced that together. That worked for me better than the whole idea of just having Brad Dourif play the whole thing. I mean, I'm sure it would have done well, but it just, you're looking at Brad Dourif and you're trying to think, okay, why don't I see Jason Miller in this?
I think a mixture of the two. Blatty's idea, but with Jason Miller in there to cover at least part of the character.
Yeah.
Because the way they did do it with him right there, and and when he looked like Karras, and all of a sudden he comes screaming for you, goes, "No, I am not. I am Gemini killer."
Yeah,
that worked well the way they did that.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I did enjoy that one. That there goes my headset.
How you doing, Eggers? How's it going? We see it says, one of the scenes I love is the dream sequence where Father Karras is in the city and he sees his mom coming out of the subway. And he runs to her, and there, is no dialogue, right? And then it shows the St. Christopher or whatever metal.
It's metal.
Okay, yeah, that's supposed to signify to him, because see, my theory on the whole thing is always has been was the focus, the target of the whole thing was Father Karras.
Yeah, it
He
was.
was, yes, that is what I've said from the very beginning. He was the whole target, and that was been already in his head, signifying that she'd come up saying, "Help me," and when she went back down, she was going into hell. That's what they were trying to tell her. Can't go above and everyone. It's just joined. Thanks for coming, Gino. Appreciate it. Hey, Revin, how you doing? You're having an Exorcist conversation with Exorcist Reviews. Of course, you guys already seen all of that, I'm sure. Exorcist is all about demon Karras' journey to find his faith and salvation.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
His
It was
ultimate
almost
goal.
it was almost more like Bill Blatty, you know. So much of Bill Blatty was in Father Karras. It's crazy.
He wanted to play Karras,
Oh
so
yeah,
you know it's kind of
definitely.
funny.
Because that was him in a way,
Yeah, yeah,
the character.
exactly. Now, when did you first see the original Exorcist? How old were you then?
9. And it's the only book I read twice fully, you know,
See,
because I was one of those people that I might read a little bit and then just I just couldn't get invested in anything like that. And then once I
right.
read the book, saw the film, I ended up burning that book. I could not get Reagan out of my head. And I could never understand what, you know, at 9, I could never understand what it was that was just had its grip on me when it came to that. It just, I got obsessed with it. It was like, you know, it's kind of I push it away. But then in high school, I got obsessed with it a little bit more. That a lot of my English teachers were like worried, saying,
They
you
were
know,
going
you
me too.
talk about this all the time. What's up with that? You know, and back then you couldn't. Back in the '80s, it was hard to find a T-shirt like that, and so I had one of those made, you know, where they
Right.
take the T-shirt and then they put the letters on. So I
Yeah.
had that, and I went to school that way. I was thinking it was a sophomore or junior wearing the shirt, and
Nowadays, child services would these days child services would be talking to your parents.
probably, yep,
Oh, I guarantee you. It's the
yep.
same thing with me. I seen Halloween. Like, you know, Halloween came out when I was 5 and 78. I seen about 79, 80, so I was 6 or 7, maybe. I seen them both close at the same time. And next thing you know, I was running around the neighborhood and I'm stepping up behind the bush and kind of watching. So here I am, about 7 or 8 years old. I'm sitting behind bushes, behind bushes, and watching like Michael Myers. And there was there was actually parents in the neighborhood that were going talking to my mom. You know, where we invite your son. So these days, I'm pretty sure the child services would be there going, oh, Mrs. Thompson, we need to
What
talk
do
about
you
your
what do you
boy.
think of what Rob Zombie did with Halloween?
Uh, um, First and foremost, I think what he did, he made a decent film. Okay, it wasn't bad, but it completely defied everything that Michael Myers was supposed to be about. Michael Myers wasn't
Mm.
supposed to have an explanation of why he was the way he was. He was just, you know, he was just the boogeyman. You know, giving him explanation and giving him purpose, just like Halloween 2, making them brother and sister. That completely kills the whole point of him. The whole point
Hmm.
of him was he was a shape. He was a he looked like a human. Um, you know, he's the shape of a human, but not human at all. You know, when you give him a sister and when you give him a backstory, he turns out that way, like every other serial killer does. That destroys the whole idea of the shape and the boogeyman. You know what I mean? So that being said, he made an all right film. If it wasn't Michael Myers, that would have been really cool.
Well, what are your thoughts about the Blumhouse version, the trilogy on that?
I hate it. I can't stand it. Everybody act like they nailed it. They knocked it out with Halloween 2018. No, they did not hit it right. Um, First of all, you know, and I could get on a rant for 2 hours about this, but I won't. Um,
So
you
that's
know,
what I'm afraid what's going to happen with the Exorcist too, with this legacy trilogy that they're calling it. It's going to be like, you know, people get all nostalgic and whatnot when the first one comes out, and then you're going to have Exorcist kills, Pazuzu dies tonight, and then you're going to have Exorcist ends. It's going to be
Zuzu
like
dies.
that. People run around, Pazuzu dies tonight. Pazuzu dies tonight.
I used to think he was a demon, but you're not. You're just a man. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, it's terrible. Spicy General is this first time here. I do believe I'm not sure I've seen Spicy General. Or are they sub to you?
Oh, Spicy General?
Mhm.
I'm not sure. Sometimes I don't see everybody on my subs. You know, it's kind of gets cut off at a certain point, and sometimes like I'll see certain names, but then I won't see everybody. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. What is
There's
this?
characters
There's missing in the film, but
missing in the film, seen more in the novel, including Burke Dennings, who curses at more partygoers at Chris's party, which is more in detail than the novel. He completely harasses that guy, man.
oh yeah, yep.
Nazi pig. Yeah, he just goes off on this guy. That guy, I think, is so great. He is so entertaining. That is one thing that I want to talk about. Burke Dennings. Why does he go upstairs? Now, these days, everybody talks about, they make it some kind of perverted thing where he went up there to mess with a little girl. I don't think that was it at all. He knew she was sick. That's why they had him watch her and stay there while they went to go get the medicine. I think she called for him in Reagan's voice, called for him, Burke, blah, blah, blah. You bring me a glass of water, whatever.
Well, she would have to know that he was there.
Well, definitely. I don't think he went up there to molest her, to mess with her,
There was a little bit. I noticed that in the TV miniseries screenplay, the one I showed you in that book, they do have a little bit more focus on what was going on. So it's not left. You're not going to get the whole. It's just left to the imagination. There's a little bit, and it's funny that you mentioned that because I had this when I did that little Lucio Fulci short.
That's great.
I would have said, you know what, if Lucio Fulci did The Exorcist, you'd get to see the whole scene where he's walking up the stairs and then Reagan comes up and probably the first thing she's going to do is grab a hold of his head and shove her thumbs into his eyeballs, so you get the eye effect going on, because you would have to have that part, and twist his head around, you get to see that, and push him out the window. You definitely probably would have seen that.
What was happening is she's going to call for him in her voice. He's going to come through the door. She's going to use the supernatural powers to shut the door behind him, and then the light from outside is going to hit his face, and he's going to be terrified. For a minute, and then you'll see her snatch him and do that with the eyes and twist.
Yeah,
he's got a good 5-10 seconds of terror. Because they have their own way of doing it. What I always describe Italian cinema is, a lot of times what they do doesn't make sense, but it's like I tell everybody, it's supposed to be more of an experience than it is a play-by-play, scene-by-scene sense-making. You know what I mean? You're supposed to experience it, because if you nitpick an Italian horror film, you're not going to like it.
Yeah, that's true. It's got to be like the way it's set up, It's like you're going to expect it that way too, It's like, what are you going to see, especially with the focus on the eyes and stuff, and then you can't get too picky with it, But when you're weighing something against, like, okay, this is going to be the direct sequel, you're going to probably want to hope that it's even cut from the same cloth, which, of course, I don't think that it's not going to be the same. It's just like in that one video I said, don't expect the original. It's not going to happen. And even Green said that he's a different voice from Friedkin. So it's really, it's nothing to expect. I don't know if you had seen that Shudder TV's Joe Bob's Hollywood, was it Halloween Hoedown? Yeah, I watched it. I wanted to make sure I got all the words right, and I'm sitting there watching this, and it's like, okay. So he's pretty much admitting it's not going to be like the original. So no telling what in the world he's going to do with it. It's probably, with the first one, it might be some slow burn of sort, because I can't imagine. And it's going to be if it's a trilogy, the second one's probably going to be some kind of filler of sort. I even imagined it, and once in a while I'll get these weird like epiphanies where it's like, well, why is he trying to get a hold of Chris MacNeil, and how's Chris MacNeil going to help with this guy's possession situation, and somewhere in the back of my head, since they didn't have Reagan, she would say stuff like, and this is just right out of my imagination. She would tell him that, okay, my daughter told me that this will probably happen, blah, 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 blah. And then, so you're assuming that she's alive, right? So I'm getting all these images in my head. And so I'm watching the scenes actually play out. I don't know if you do that, like if you're imagining something happening in a film, you'll even get to see the shots as they go without even trying. It's like something coming out of my subconscious. So at the end of the film, say at the first film, we see Chris coming back to this apartment, and she's talking. You don't hear a voice return, but then she goes around the corner and says to Reagan, or Rags, calls her Rags or something. Okay, I told him what to do. What do you want me to do now, or something like that? What do we do now?
Right.
And so instead of seeing Reagan, you see a Ouija board sitting there, and you're watching the piece move around, and it says wait, and then that's when it ends.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I picked up, and I was like, God, that would be kind of scary. You know,
That's
if that
imagination,
happened.
man. Yeah, that's imagination. Anybody with a good active imagination does that when they watch a film, or when they think about what it's going to be, when they anticipate. Yeah, that's a good imagination. That'd be interesting. Slash Fred said, "Oh, here we go." It says there was a prequel called The Dominion. Okay, do you want to get into the Dominion?
I don't like to count those.
in the beginning. Okay, I'll be like, if you had to pick one between Dominion and the beginning for a prequel, like say you had to, there was a gun to you, and you had to pick one, which one would it be?
I don't know. I really don't know.
At least the beginning tried to at least try
I think
to.
I'd have to review them because I try to forget them. You know, it's one of them started off. It looked like it could have been the opening for. I don't know if you're familiar with the anime Berserk, where they have all these people crucified upside down and whatnot, and the
Right.
whole upside down crucifixion seemed so damn cliche anymore. I mean,
Right.
it's almost like okay, when we had that scene where in the film, the Exorcist film, where they're saying the power of Christ compels you, and you hear it everywhere now anymore. You know, it's gotten to a point where
I say
somebody's assuming, it's like the assumption that's what you got to say. You know,
Yeah.
when
Things
and
out of
if you were to
control.
go like into the commentary portion of the film, you know, on some of these discs, I can't remember which disc. Friedkin said that Reverend Nicola told him that if the priest comes up with a powerful enough phrase that really puts it on the demon in the possession, that they repeat it. Now it's not suggesting it's that particular phrase. It could have been something else totally. And so it's like you go back into the novel, it's not even in there. You know, these are all the things that were coming out from like whoever's on their technical advisors, you know, those three that were on there, especially Nicola, you know, because I was like, okay, why in the world was Reagan so vulgar during the exorcism and not so much in the novel, where it's like she's trying to play psychological card, you know, saying stuff, but she wasn't as vulgar, like, you know. And I remember reading some comment from a reviewer saying, oh, well, they threw all that vulgarity in because it's poorly written. And that wasn't the case. Apparently, it's like Nicola was saying, okay, you can't have a real exorcism without the victim being blasphemous. You know, it usually doesn't happen. So he had Blatty had to go back and write some lines of filth that he wanted to put in the movie. And apparently for that scene, from what I understood, Friedkin picked out the ones he wanted to use out of all of the lines that he came up with. So, you know, your mother sucks cocks in hell was one, you know, that one. And a lot of people remember that, of course.
I was telling Karen, you know, from Ocean Chicks Films, I was telling her, as she hasn't read the book, I think she was the one, about the masturbation scene and how vile that scene is in that book. He's like, oh, my sweet little Sal and all that, and how it's going
and it was more like
before they go up there.
Right, and it was more than just a masturbation scene in the film. It was more like a violent rape.
Right. With this, they were getting all succulent, and he was talking. It got quite violent. Anybody that hasn't read the book but likes the film, I tell them about that masturbation scene, because I read that at about 13 years old, and it blew my mind. That scene did. I couldn't believe that. I was like, wow, that's something they definitely could not have filmed.
Did you watch my video? Who was on Reagan's floor?
Yeah.
Did you try going back on your disc and see if you could catch those 2 seconds of where you see the shoe in the hand?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah. Now, isn't he in the film after that? I mean, is he all right? Because he's like unconscious down there, isn't he?
Yeah, you probably wouldn't know that if you weren't looking for him, or if you hadn't read the novel. Right. if I could ever get a hold of Friedkin and ask him that, he probably wouldn't remember. He at one in one interview he couldn't remember the spider walk scene, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it comes back
Yeah.
after a while. Because from what I understand, there was a lot filmed but removed. So somewhere there's probably someplace in a vault or wherever they put these, if they had even saved it, a lot of these scenes, because I think it was Ron Faber, I think that's who it is, the one that played the assistant director. He said there was a lot of scenes in that party that he was in that was cut. And there was like interactions between him and the character that plays Mary Jo Perrin, the dark-haired one. You never wouldn't have known that was Mary Jo Perrin unless you read it in the credits. She was credited as the character, but she didn't have any lines. So
No,
you
she's the
would
one
think,
that's
okay,
singing, right?
huh?
She's one singing. She's one singing there by the piano, right? She's one
Yeah,
singing
she's over
really
there, but
loud.
she was supposed to have been the one that brought the seer that
Okay.
was supposed to have brought back that witchcraft book
Right.
that
Okay.
was under suspicion that Reagan might have gotten the whole idea of being possessed from that book because she read it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But
Yeah.
that scene
Yeah.
was cut. That whole subplot was taken out. So I guess there it is. It's on the floor somewhere.
I just wonder what everybody would think if it hadn't been the spider crawl scene. If it had been the scene where she comes down, where the blood doesn't come out, where she comes down, and the what I call the serpent scene, where she comes down and she starts chasing Kitty Wynn with the tongue coming out. Because that part to me is even scarier than the spider wall. That would freak me out. The kid chasing me with the tongue, like that.
Looking back in the novel, I don't know if she actually went down the stairs. I think she was running around that way, at floor level.
Right.
I'm sure the having her come down the stairwell was probably a little bit more of an abrupt scare than anything else. But I kind of get the impression the whole blood scene coming out of her mouth was there. So when you did a close up, you didn't realize, okay, that's not Linda Blair.
Right.
There's also been that whole idea, there's that whole issue with who actually went down the steps in the film, because you've got another Linda who got credited for the spider walk, but there's also Ann Miles that came back and said she was the one that did the effect, and it wasn't this Linda person.
No,
she's even got a whole book on it. Yeah, she does. She did that. She said she could do it without the wires, was one of the things. And then her accusation was that the guy who created that apparatus, I forget the special effects guy, his name, but he wanted to be able to credit and get credit on that scene. So supposedly she had to wear the wires along with going down the steps, even though, she said, yeah, I totally could do it by myself.
Wow. That'd be interesting to see. Now, Dick Smith is credited for the makeup effects.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I heard somewhere else something I didn't know. I heard that Rick Baker had something to do with it too. Now, was he involved with that?
I'm not sure. I'll have to look that one up just because trying to remember everything that has to do with this film. It's like I'm shooting from the hip right now.
Each of them learned from each other. You had Dick Smith, and then you had Baker, and then Rob Bottin learned from Baker. You know what I mean? So it's just like right. What I mean? Which is very cool. Gino says The Exorcist III is so damn underrated sequel. Especially when I went and seen Exorcist III at the theater, it was just me and my friend. When we went there, we were the only two there. Sequel and the theatrical version, I felt the ending of the director's cut was lackluster. Well, the director's cut, they only had a little bit of the footage left, and they barely had that. What you see on the Screen Factory, they barely had enough there. And basically, what he does, he goes in and he goes, "Forgive me, Damien," and he shoots him, and that's it. It's very abrupt. You have the Screen Blu-ray, still looks great. Don't need the 4K. Yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad they couldn't have had put that together with better footage, instead of having to salvage so much. Kind of takes away. It's like, okay, we're in this cutscene here. You're looking at it, and what gets distracting is that, like you've gotten from like a really clean cut to an older cut, or from like that to the VHS that's almost like a really bad copy.
Right. Yeah. Let me see. Start getting a little bit with these guys here real quick. The Exorcist Iraq opening is very underrated part of the movie because folks seem not to care and just call it a boring opening, which I disagree. The opening was just scarier than the possession stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of things like, for instance, do you want to talk about the killer, the actual real killer that's in the hospital scene? The guy that's the guy with the mustache.
Oh, in the hospital. Uh,
Yeah,
sure. I really don't put much focus on that. I mean, it's going to happen. You know, it's like you got people on staff. You never know what's going to happen in that sense. You know,
right.
from what I understood, uh, his situation helped inspire that whole cruising film.
Really? Okay. I had no idea he had anything to do with that. Okay. Now, was he? Did he just now? I understand. Did he kill more than one, or just that one chick?
I think he killed more than one. But
Yeah.
then I didn't really pursue that end because you could go all over the place with some of this stuff, especially when it
Definitely.
comes to that.
It's like the desk. The desk attributed to the movie. Max von Sydow had a good point. If you're making a film, you got a lot of people involved in making this film, and it takes over a year to film it. You're gonna have deaths connected to somebody. You know.
Sure, sure.
So it had nothing to
Especially
do
when
with
like their
film.
health is bad. Like here in the beginning, it's like everybody heard about the what Jack. I forgot his last name. The guy that played Burke Dennings.
Jack
Where
McGowan.
he, yeah, Jack McGowan. There you go. And he had died. You know,
Yeah.
we heard that one. I don't know how many times. Like that was a big focus, but you never focus on like 10 days later. The mom that played the woman that played the mother for Karis died as well. But you know, it was under natural causes.
Also, Max von Sydow's brother died. There was a baby. Somebody's baby died. But that's just that's why I thought that made so much sense when Max von Sydow said that. Is when
Oh,
you make a
there
film
is
for a year and a half, it's gonna happen. Well,
talking
one of
about
the funniest
rumors and
things,
whatnot.
one of the
One
funniest things I think involved in this is the story on how accurate it is, but it was hilarious. So when Jason Miller is telling the story about how Max von Sydow comes in and he's all this gentleman, and she whips out with her voice because she said all the stuff before they put Mercedes Cambridge's voice in there. He said, "Your mother sucks cocks in hell," and Max von Sydow's like, "Cut, cut."
See, that goes right
I'm
back. That goes
losing it.
right back to how Jason Miller was remembering stuff because that was directed at him, not uh, the Marin character. You know,
Right? But him just hearing it coming out of the little girl's
your
mouth,
mother sucks
being,
cocks to hell, Karis. You know that part. But from
I
what
guess
I
he was over
understood,
like,
they inserted that there was like a. From what I understood, there was an article that said, okay, uh, they didn't have that in like rehearsal because it was added later. So it was like kind of a shock in that sense.
right?
It's like Sydow and Miller weren't involved in the whole uh, redoing that shot after, especially when Nicola was like saying, "Okay, this probably wouldn't happen. You're going to have more blasphemous things said in this, and a much more vulgar tone going on than you would what you have written in this script." So they changed it up, and then from what I understood, Miller and von Sydow were not aware that was gonna, that this was gonna come out of her mouth, and so yeah, I can totally understand that being a kind of a shock.
Because you hear certain scenes where where the McCambry's voice hasn't been overdubbed yet. She's saying some of the lines, but we've never heard her saying those lines. So you can imagine hearing her say those lines with her voice.
Right, and
So
that's the other thing. In some of the earlier interviews, I noticed that Friedkin wouldn't admit that Linda Blair was saying these lines. He was saying that she just mouthed them. It's almost like, okay, I've got to protect Linda Blair at this point,
right.
until the movie's got some kind of foothold, and
She talked
then
about saying
we'll
all of them.
admit later that she did that, because there's too many videos out there that actually show her where she's actually saying the lines. You can't really fake
You
that,
can tell she's actually talking. You can tell she's not just mouthing. She's not just lip syncing.
yeah, she's saying it.
Yeah,
But in
yeah.
these interviews, he's saying, "Oh no, that's not what happened." But this is like back '74 when the movie just came out. It's like we got to protect Linda
Different
Blair in that
audience.
sense, I think, and that's one of the reasons why I think he wasn't going to credit so many people in certain situations. And from what I understood, Eileen Dietz didn't start having an issue. She wasn't ranting until probably about the time that like Linda Blair was getting like a Golden Globe Award or something. When the awards started coming out, it was like within a few days she started pushing it, saying, "Hey, I was in this and I did this part," and pushing how much she put into the film. And I know there's a book I haven't really read into because I've got a bunch of books I haven't even touched yet when it comes down to this, where it's like the autobiographies, and I'm even looking into one from Studs Terkel. And this is a person that supposedly Friedkin wanted to use as Detective Kinderman. But they used Lee J. Cobb instead. And he originally, his first choice would have been Studs Terkel. And he kind of looks like him a little bit. But the thing is, it's like, I'm not sure how that would have played out, because I think Terkel was more of an author than anything else. And that probably would have changed whatever he had going on. But if you look at it in the big picture, Studs Terkel outlived Lee J. Cobb. He would have been able to play not only the Exorcist II, but in Legion. Right.
Yeah. Lee J. Cobb was so good, though. What's your thoughts on their choice to take over Kinderman and Exorcist III, George C. Scott?
I liked it. What could you do? You can't dig up Lee J. Cobb, and I think George C. Scott did a really good job. And it seemed like, and it seems like it seemed like more acceptable back then when you replaced a character or replaced somebody in acting. It's almost like now you got to pay them out the nose to reprise their role because no one can accept the fact that someone else is playing this part.
Right. Plus, that series was just so all over the place that they didn't, you know what I mean? The only thing that had to happen was that this one that was supposed to be Karis had to have Jason Miller's face. In my opinion, he had to be there at some time. You know what I mean? Right. I would not have accepted it otherwise. I do agree with you on that. Now, how long in real time is it supposed to be? What, 3 or 4 months altogether from the beginning of the movie till the end when Karis jumps out the window? It's supposed to be like 3 or 4 months.
It was supposed to have been, I think, 6 weeks.
Oh, okay. The whole thing is 6 weeks. Wow.
So it was like, okay, you're talking about when he went out the window and before, and then they moved.
Well, but yeah,
because for the film, it's like you're not really. There's no time. You have no clue it's happening. I mean, the only thing we got to reference for the film would be, okay, we're thinking it's October. We see the trick-or-treaters run by in Georgetown. And then you also have Rambling Man playing at the bar.
Yes.
And then you got to think about when that came out. Okay. It couldn't be any earlier than 71 or 72. I'm pretty sure it hit like about 73. So that kind of gives you a gauge. I mean, honestly, it could have been 75. If they were going to play it like, oh yeah, this happened in 1975. I think they tried to state that. What was it in the director's cut of Legion, that there was even like a timestamp before he went through the window. I think it was like October 9th or something, 75, and he's coming down. Well, that would be a hard call. I could believe the year, but I can't imagine trick-or-treaters going out a month ahead.
Right. We used to trick or treat September. In the day. Well, we used to trick or treat a little earlier in the day, but we didn't trick or treat a week or a month ahead. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Oh man, do you remember those days when you start real early trick or treating and you could trick or treat all the way up until real late?
Sure.
That was cool. I mean, I'm not sure about your age. But I'd say you're somewhere close to where I am. And the world was just a different place. Okay, do you have some stuff that you want to show off and stuff like that, or?
Well, let's go back on the whole time thing though. Now, in your opinion, when we're in the Iraq sequence and then we go to Georgetown, how much time would you say had passed? I mean, would you think it's like the next day? and we're in Georgetown, like these things are happening.
Oh,
Because in the
I'm okay with
novel,
the
that's
movie.
that's the thing with the novel is, okay, uh, Marin had already come back several months. You know, when
Okay,
the like the president and the bishop, I think it's president and the bishop of the university, and then like the Catholic bishop are discussing who they want to bring in as an exorcist. He's
right.
already been back several months. It might have been, if you look at
Okay,
the time frame, you could almost say about he came back about January. So
okay,
he's been back for quite a while, and then all this stuff started happening in April. This in the novel.
okay.
So it's hard to kind of gauge when Father Marin came back. You know, we know he came back, and
Yeah,
he's over, you know, writing another book. You know, he's at Woodstock writing another book.
right.
And here's another,
Waiting,
yeah.
waiting for
So
this call.
sure, he's just waiting. He didn't even have to look at that note. He didn't have to read anything. It was just right there.
He
He knew
knew. He
he knew it
knew.
was
Yep.
time. Yeah, basically. Yep. And the funny thing is about the TV miniseries had this screenplay played out. All this stuff is happening at the same time. So you got like Marin in Iraq. He's in the curator's office, and the way they play this out is the clock stops, and then suddenly we're in Georgetown, and you hear the ticking of a clock, and it's an
Right.
alarm clock, but that stops, and that wakes up Chris McNeil. It's like there's that still, that weird tension that you get. So these things are happening at the same time, and with that, probably like halfway through this, if this were to come out, Marin is still he's on a train, and
Okay.
he's still in that, he's still across the ocean, he's still overseas, but he's on a train. He hasn't made it back yet. It's almost like by the time he makes it back is when he's about to do that whole exorcism
Yeah.
around that. He does make it back. It still plays out with the scene where he's got this note. He doesn't have to read it. He knows he needs to go to Georgetown or wherever they send him. I don't think he knew where he was going. He just knew it was going to happen.
Do you
But
think he knew it was going to happen somewhere in the United States, and that's why he came back to the United States, or do you think
I
that
don't
this
know. I think it
was?
was almost like just the way things fell and were fated in a way. You know,
Right?
like all this was supposed to come to pass in a way.
I always wondered if being around Marin and seeing Marin's faith and everything, because while they're doing the exorcism, you know, and he's saying Damien, you know, like he says a passage and Damien's supposed to say one, and then
Right.
Damien's freaking out instead, you know, and he's like, Damien, do you think he was getting a little more in touch with it with his faith then, or just seeing the
Yeah,
way
I
Marin
think it's
is?
kind of dumbfounded in that, you know, it's like what he learned from school wasn't jiving with what he's seeing here, you know, and so here he is with weak faith, but he's strong in the whole scientific end, and it's kind of making that transition over to where, you know, his faith is starting to. It's kind of like that one scene where you know everything's hitting the fan and then it stops and you got a lull, and Marin leaves and he says, let's he leaves Kara sitting there on the bed kind of looking off to the side,
Right.
and he says, let's rest before we start again, you know, and he's leaving, and then you got Marin or Kara's kind of looking off, just like just kind of trying to take it all in. And one of the things I noticed, and it's one of my favorite scenes too, because you know a lot of people they don't think about the sound, you know, everything that's happening in the room and all the way everything's mixed, because you're listening to Reagan breathing, and then all of a sudden, gradual transition, all you can hear is Karras's breath, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah,
He's gonna,
yeah. Because
and then he
he
looks
was getting
over.
worn out too, and especially emotionally, that was the worst time in the world for that to happen to him. And
Oh yeah,
and
he
the
was very vulnerable.
yeah, and the demon knows this. It takes advantage of him, just like it took advantage of Reagan when her dad didn't call or show up for her birthday, and she hears her
Mhm.
mom in the other room going, he just doesn't care. You know what I mean? That's why you don't say that kind of stuff in
Mhm.
front of kids, because that beat her down. She was susceptible. She was right for the pickets. So you know what I mean? It picks the perfect time. She needed someone to talk to. Her mom was always, she was working on that new film.
Mm-hmm.
All was around with servants. She needed a friend, someone to talk to. So it became her friend with the Ouija board, and then
Mm-hmm.
it became her shoulder when she felt like her dad didn't love her, and her dad saying that shit. And then it went from being a friend to being, you know, a lot more than a friend,
Right.
because she didn't
Right.
have anybody else. She was alone.
Right. And there's a lot of emphasis on that in the screenplay for the TV miniseries, where there's a lot more paranormal stuff focused on. There's even a scene where, you know, I think Chris is walking by the Reagan's bedroom and hears her talking, and there's nobody there, and she's like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, it's just a game, Mom." You know, like she's just playing pretend. And
Right.
then there she's looking, and she notices something about her clothes closet. There was something in there. You don't see anything, but you notice that the clothes are pressed back and they quiver, like there's something
Oh,
pressed
I don't
against
even
it.
think about
So
this. Cool.
well, no, this is in the series. It's kind of like, okay, so there's a little bit more of a focus on the paranormal part of it, you know, like
It's already there. Ooh.
instead of having it the thought that you know, something's wrong with her mentally. There's like this focus, even in some POV shots, where something's coming out of the closet downstairs from the basement up into the bedrooms and whatnot, kind of like those shots you've seen from The Changeling, you know, where the
Right.
camera just kind of does the POV and moving around in the house. Uh, the screenplay kind of plays that. So it's like, you know, that there's something going on, like demonic stuff, because in the miniseries, in the screenplay, um, there's a part where, you know, where they're doing stuff on the Ouija board, like you see in the film, but it was kind of more of like a distraction for Reagan, in the sense that they were setting up a birthday party for her, and so all of a sudden they get called up, and so they're wishing her happy birthday, and then the camera goes back down. Oops, sorry, camera goes back down to the basement, in the playroom area, onto the Ouija board, and then you see the plaquette, or whatever they call it, I forget what they call it, on the board, just move all the way to
Yeah.
no. So you know something's going on down there. And it's kind of like they almost make it feel like it's hiding in the closet, you know, because the closet has a tendency to swing open and closed and
I like to see a
whatnot.
little bit of that.
Oh, did you ever notice, and I'm going to go back to the film since we're in the playroom, that when they're talking, and maybe it's just me, but when Chris and Reagan are talking about Captain Howdy and sitting at the board, if you look in the back, you can see the bird sitting there, and it's in the shot, kind of like it's eavesdropping.
Right.
And then
Oh,
when Karis is downstairs with Chris talking about what he would you know, advise to do with Reagan, you know, where he's like saying
this
6
stuff
months
really
under
divides.
observation. The figure's right between them, kind of like it's involved in the conversation. That somehow it's gotten from that point to right between Chris and Karis, sitting there.
That's cool. That is cool. I didn't notice that, but next time I check that out, I'm going to check
It's
it out
like,
because it does
you know
always
how
seem to be
there's
there.
that whole belief, like in Sumerian mythology, that the spirits can embody the figures and the idols that
Wow.
they. So I was wondering if maybe that could be a coincidence, for all I know. But yeah, it just seemed to be like, okay, it's in the shot, you know, while
Yeah.
they're in, just off on the side, kind of like it's
I,
listening.
I've never heard anybody ask Friedkin or Blatty that before, but that would be a good question. He's been asked all the same questions a million times. I've
Yeah, I
never heard
know.
anything
It's
like
like
that.
I'm trying to get if I ever did an interview with him, of course I'm going to like try to come up with questions he hasn't been asked yet, especially when it came to the possibility that Carl was on the floor, and ask
Right.
him, was he on the floor in their shot originally? And I think part of
Yeah.
it was like they didn't want to put that focus on him. They want to just keep the focus on Chris and Reagan during the masturbation scene, the crucifix
But
scene.
make it to where he can be. If you look, you can tell he's there. Right.
Yeah,
That's it.
you could have easily just did a quick, because she does look over and sees him stunned on the floor. Not
To
in the film,
me,
but in the novel. But you know, I don't know if that would have been drawn people away from what was going on right away. But if you did
Right.
it right, you know, if it was a flash, you could have done it, I think.
Right. To me, the creepiest scene of, well, at least one of, but to me, it makes my hair stand up just thinking about it. Creepiest scene in the film is when Kinderman is sitting out in the car and he looks up at the window and he sees, you know, the lights on in Reagan's bedroom, and you could tell she's not walking across. She's kind
Kind
of
of gliding.
separate, and she's gliding across. That is so fucking creepy, man. That is so wild because he knows she's supposed to be sick. We know she's supposed to be tied down. So why is she just roaming
Yeah,
about,
I
just
know.
gliding across the area? That is so weird, man.
Yeah, I know.
I've always found that to be so strange. But yeah, no one ever talks about that, and I just wonder why. Little things like that, like little things like you know, the discussion between Kinderman and Chris McNeil when he comes in, he's talking because he's hinting, you know, at the same time he's trying to get an autograph and he's being a fanboy. He's hinting that he's trying to dig in and find out if she did it or not, and that he suspects that she did it. Yet, you know, and then he starts saying, "Yet it couldn't be because blah blah blah. No one can call it." And he said it had to be a very powerful man, and you can see Chris McNeil just freaking out. And then she's like, "Oh, you know, would you like some more coffee?" He's like, "Oh yes, please." She was
I
hoping to
think
God.
she's all like,
"Oh no, I gotta go." She just, you see the panic on her face. She's like,
sure,
you
yeah,
know, damn, because she's trying to be polite because she figured, oh no, he won't accept it, but he does because he's just trying to.
please, yeah.
Yes. Oh my God. And then right after that, uh, because you see her come through, and before he comes in, she sets the cross on the table. That's something I didn't. When I was a kid, I didn't notice that. I didn't see her set the cross on the table because she was asking Carl about it and everything. She sets it on the table, and then when they come back through, it's not there. And then next thing you know, she's got it up there. For years, it was a debate on who took it up to her. Well, now we know it was Carl. And then that's when she knocked his ass down. So
Right,
yeah,
right. It's almost like that one scene. Why was that so necessary? The one where he comes in, but while Chris and Kinderman are talking, asking if there was anything else that he needed to, that she wanted him to do. So I don't know if that might have been some kind of hint on that part, you know, because it kind of freed him up. He can just go back upstairs.
right,
We
yeah,
don't actually get to see him do it, and I think that was kind of the idea, you know, just kind of leaving it up in the air in the sense of let's see if they can figure out what happened. It's almost like also trying to come up with what was the reason why Kinderman came back, you know, and it's almost like you could see it in his face, you know, something was up.
yeah.
He just had that look.
I'd love to have seen him go up and try at that point, go up and try to arrest her. You know, when he shows up while they're doing exorcism, I'd love to have seen him go. I'd have paid money to see him go up those stairs and try to arrest her and take her to jail. That would have been interesting.
Well, that's the weird thing about it. It's like, you know, he had, this was mentioned on Blatty saying this, that he came to the door in the sense of that, okay, he had a warrant, but the way things probably would have played out had he gotten up there before Karras was able to do what he did, she would have probably ended up in an institution more than
shit, wouldn't
just being.
See her looking like that, he'd been like, oh my God.
Man, that would have been a part 2 right there. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Who knows if they try to play that in the legacy films? I mean, they kind of put you on a cliffhanger as far as like what's going to happen there.
So many things that they could play off of. Hopefully, if they do it, hopefully they do it somewhat. Juno says Burke Dennings' death was supposed to be filmed, but Jack McGowan was badly sick, and they instead have him die off screen. What was it supposed to be filmed, as far as you know?
They could have gone that route. As far as I know, the thing is, when you're reading the novel, you don't even see that description happen, you know? So they might have just gone by that. That could have also been a circumstance. It's hard to say on that one. You know, that would have been a question for Friedkin. Right. I think that's a good question.
Jimmy says, "Thou shalt not
or not
blaspheme Rob Zombie's Halloween." I wouldn't. I was just saying that it wasn't Michael Myers in my book. Oh, wow. Blumhouse totally ruined Halloween. Thank you so much. for all of us Halloween fans, yeah, they literally butt fucked my poor Michael Myers and ground him up into hamburger meat. I disagree. I love the newest Halloween.
That's the way to put it.
They did. They made fucking hamburger out of him. I have to agree with you, Keith. I hate the Blumhouse Halloween movies. Yeah, and if they did those at Halloween, what do you think they're going to do? The Exorcist? I'm terrified.
Yeah, I know. I think either way, I'm gonna probably see it just so I can review it and say.
Jamie Hart says that it implies that Burke was abusing her in the book.
There's a line in there but you don't know whether to believe it or not, because it's the Dennings personality that explained what happened to him while he was at the house. But the thing is, this has come from the demon. You don't know whether it's truth or not. But there was also implied that nothing happened in that sense.
Right. I'll hear see things
under that.
Rob Ager, but he does theories on these films, and he did a thing on Burke Dennings being.
I remember I've seen that one.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of his stuff.
Well, he was still guessing on what happened with the crucifix scene. You know, I even messaged him on his channel and say, "Hey, watch my video."
Yeah. He talked about The Shining too. He implied that Danny was being sexually abused.
Yeah, I heard that one too.
You know, I don't believe that. That's the only time that I've ever heard it. I don't see that. I think he's abusive drunk, and I don't think he meant to be an abusive to his kid anyway. You know, while he was drunk, it just kind of happened. It sounds like Dennings' voice yelling at Reagan. Chris runs upstairs, says, "Do it, bitch." Yeah. Well, it's definitely Burke's voice when he said, "Did you see what she did, your cunting daughter?" Now that was him.
That know what happened there, because it's yeah.
Because she's like, "Oh my God," that's what tells her she killed him. That's what lets her know, basically. Oh my God, Reagan did kill him. Whoever played the priest who finds
that's going to be up in the air, because one, Nicola said he didn't do it. He wasn't gonna play the part. The guy who played that priest looks somewhat like him, and so it's still there. You know, still up in the air. We can't even ask Nicola. He's gone. He's passed away.
Yeah. Jim says whoever played the priest finds this
play. I'm sorry. He was actually going to play in the party scene, from what I remember.
Okay.
Like he was supposed to let Chris know something, and he even practiced the lines. He was all up for that scene. But ever since they covered the masturbation scene with the crucifix and whatnot, he was so against it that he refused to, play any parts after that.
Right.
Just as his little, how would he put it, to his rebellion against what they were doing. I mean, he stayed on as a consultant, but he wouldn't do the I think it was the president or somebody, the dean of the school or something like that. I can't remember exactly. But they had offered him one part. He couldn't do it because he had obligations, so they had cast someone else. Then he was offered the part in the party, like I said, and then that was it.
Right. Didn't the guy that finds the desecrated Virgin Mary, wasn't he a priest or a preacher or priest? Wasn't he actually part of the church? The guy that's in that scene.
See, that's the thing. I couldn't find him in the cast. I mean, IMDb's got a named. It wasn't John Nicola. Somebody assumed that it was.
Because that's the only time he's in it. Carl was knocked out in the novel, but in the film, when you hear that crashing boulder sound while Chris running through this up the stairs,
yeah,
it's meant to be that Carl was hit by Reagan. Yeah, that crashing
like a boulder to the floor. Yeah.
Now, I heard somebody say in the community, or somebody somewhere on a video, that Pazuzu is never mentioned at all in the original film or in the book. That's not true, right?
It's mentioned in the book, but it's never named.
Well, I could have sworn in the prologue it mentions something about the demon Pazuzu.
Yeah, sure. But the thing is, that's the other thing that always bothered me. Why didn't Marin name the demon?
I don't know.
And that's also something that was changed in the prologue when it came from the original copy to the 40th anniversary edition. There's a line at the end, the last paragraph in the prologue. It mentions that in the original, it mentions Marin knew that he'd have to face an ancient enemy. In the 40th anniversary edition, he said that he had never seen this demon, but he knew its name. And I never understood why he changed it to that. It's never named in the movie. It's not named out loud. It's not in the dialogue in the novel. Even when Karras comes across that picture of Pazuzu in the book he's reading, and that's also a real book. I found it. The little it's a green covered book titled Satan, and I was like, is this all the stuff that Blatty might have been using as research? You know,
Right.
Because like if you were to assume that Blatty was Karras, he'd probably want to use real books and reference them. So I went and I looked him up, and I got a copy of this book, opened it up. There it is. There's that picture of Pazuzu right there, just like he described it.
Like that statue, actually, the little things of that statue actually exists. It's not just like the one in the film, but it's close. That actually somewhat resembles the actual little statue. And the thing of it is my son checked it out and found out that Pazuzu it actually wasn't the worst of the demons. Yeah, actually wasn't the worst of the demons. I can't remember exactly what he said he did, but he's like a protector over children or some shit, something like that.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's almost like, from what I read from an interview that Blatty had done, that he had seen the statue before and he thought it was pretty scary, so he decided to use that particular entity. We'll just say that.
I love the little tie.
Did you freeze? Oh, okay.
I love the tie between Exorcist 3 and The Exorcist, because in Exorcist 3, the elderly people, and she's talking about the radio, and it's talking to her, and she wants you to fix it so the voices will stop. But remember, in the original Exorcist, when they take Karras' mom, to the place, and
even talking to the radio.
Yeah, and basically make it sound like she's losing her shit, and even talking to the radio. So I love that tie there, because she was right. It actually was talking to her. She wasn't imagining it. That's the way I took it anyway. You see, Karras, Vampire says, "Hi, this is Vampire. Hey, what's up? Welcome. If I can get you to pop up here, damn. There we go. Vampire.
First and last name."
Yeah. Karras' Uncle John was the one character that I truly hated. Yeah, what a dick that guy was. Yelling and, making fucking Damien feel terrible. What the fuck is he doing? Hey, Echo, how's it going? So George C. Scott was a great choice to recast Kinderman. Gave a lot of respect to E.J. Cobb memory. Absolutely. Hey, Junebug, how you doing? Rambling Man, a classic song. Yeah. That's a scene that was added in for the director's cut and all that, too. That wasn't in 1973. Let me see. It says, I'm okay with someone being replaced in a movie if they're good, but if I don't like the person who's replacement, I have a problem with it. Ocean says, here you go. Dick Smith did a badass makeup job doing a convincing old makeup for Marin to look old. Well, he'd already done that before in Little Big Man with Dustin Hoffman. Statue of Pazuzu and Marin stare down in Iraq symbolizes they will fight. Yeah, that's definitely foreshadowing.
Yeah.
They cut out a line in the film, but it's in the novel. Pissed Reagan saying to Marin, this time you're going to lose. Yeah,
that's the other thing. You don't get to hear that.
3. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It was also in the novel for like The Exorcist, and that I mentioned in another video because the Turkish knockoff got that part right. Of all things, even though they misspelled lose, they spelled it loose in the subtitles.
Right.
I don't know if you had watched along with Karen and I on that. The They were calling it
Oh,
Satan.
yeah. Oh, that's what that is. I've never seen that
The
before. Okay, so
Turkish
that's what that is.
Exorcist. That's what it was.
Because, because I know Beyond the Door is,
Oh
it's kind
yeah,
of like that. That's
but this one,
that's got some scary shit in it.
that movie, that Turkish Exorcist, it's like somebody had watched the film and they just copied it.
Right,
Backyard Adventures in Iraq or something.
right,
But also, I think they assumed at the bottom of the steps that the devil's head that they used was found at the bottom. You know, like how so many people assume that chunk of clay, that clay figure that Kinderman finds at the
right,
bottom of the steps, was the pendant head,
right,
which doesn't make any sense. How in the world did it get there? But in the Turkish knockoff, he finds like a replica that the head that I don't even think he had a name. He wasn't Father Marin. He was somebody else. He was kind of like the Father Marin character. That was about it. He finds something like that. And it wasn't buried very deep. It was like what, a few inches. They really didn't
I
have
haven't
to
seen
dig
that.
far.
Is 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 that a good film? I mean, it being a knockoff. I mean,
It's
would you
it's
say it's all right?
it's it's hokey. It's really
Mm,
hokey. You know, one of the reasons I watched it was I was going to do a review of it. It's kind of like the Catholic free Exorcist. I mean, how are they going to do the crucifix scene? You know, because like it looked like basically it was more of a Muslim thing. You
yeah,
know, the Exorcist was Muslim, and so what came up instead of a crucifix, it looked like either a book opener or a letter opener with a devil head on it. And they show her standing up kind of in her bed doing this and screaming. You
right,
don't really see any penetration or anything, not as much that it was like portrayed in the original film, but just kind of
right.
through the gown that she's wearing. And it's
Hmm.
funny to think, I thought the girl that played uh, the Reagan character, her name's Ghoul in the movie. Nice name, huh? Ghoul.
Right, right.
But she was actually of age. She was about 13 or so, 13
Okay.
or 14 when she played this. And I could have sworn she was about the same age as the mom somehow. She kind of gave off that Julie Louise Dreyfus vibe or something to
Right.
that effect. But
Now
the
that was a
guy,
lot more like it than
it was,
Beyond the
it was
Door, isn't it?
bizarre. It's like they had to rewrite this thing. You know, they couldn't have a Father Karras. He wasn't a Father
Mm,
Karras. He was more like a psychologist or something that wrote a book on Satan. And for some reason, that book was found in the attic at the what would have been I don't even know what her last name was. Say the Chris McNeil character. You
yeah.
know, obviously everybody had different names and whatnot, but it was kind of very watered down version of The Exorcist, almost shot for shot. And I'm going to say almost.
Right.
Yeah,
I
it was
mean,
kind of humorous when you think about comparing it. It was just bizarre.
he wanted like now they talked about Shirley MacLaine and Audrey Hepburn and Jane Fonda and all these people to play it. If Ellen Burstyn hadn't played it, who do you think would have done the best in there? Who do you think would have fit?
Jeez, I don't know. We'd have to do some digging on that one. I definitely wouldn't have had somebody that was well known. You know, if you were trying to keep that whole documentary esque feel to it, you didn't want to not subvert the whole. Yeah,
See, that's where everybody misses making these sequels and doing this Exorcist, and I think that's where they're going to miss it in this new trilogy. Is because he went at it. The whole reason he was hired, the whole reason Blatty wanted him, is because he was a documentary filmmaker, and he went at it
yeah,
like
he wanted
as a
that.
documentary. No one
Yep.
else is going to do that, so it's not going to grab that same feel. That's where they're
No.
going to miss it. And but that it's just going to be damned if it does and damned if it don't.
Yeah, that
If it's
era
too
is
much
over.
like it, if it calls back to the original too much, it's going to be fan service. If it doesn't, they're going to bitch because it doesn't. And there's no way that people are immediately expecting, and if it doesn't capture it, it's going to be damned. I don't think there's any way that it can win. I really don't. And if it does win, if it does, a lot of people do end up liking it. I don't think I will, because for many reasons, a lot of the stuff that people really dig and get into, like The Nun and all that kind of stuff, I can't stand, because it's just all one big jump scare. I like the shit that takes its time. Like when something's coming at you, I don't want it to show itself there and then you turn around and it's behind you all of a sudden. I want it to slowly creep towards you and make, you know what I mean, fuck with you. You know what I mean? That's what it's all about. It's not a race.
Cut the jump scares out. That's for sure.
I mean, it's not a race. You know what I mean? You got to build that shit up. That's what people forgot these days. I've talked about this before. Is it takes that a minute, because you have to get to know the characters first. If you don't care what happens to them. How can you care about a character that you don't know? You know, you have to care about them first, and then when bad shit happens to them, just like it immediately shows her, you know, it immediately shows Reagan, she wants a pony. Hi, Mom. She's trying to steal the cookie. They have that little cute thing there, like I said, and then she wants a pony. And she's like, oh, I don't know. And then in some of the cutscenes, they went around Washington and looked at some of the monuments and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But they build up that, you know.
That definitely would have affected the pace, I think. I mean, it's great in the novel, but when it's turning into that whole movie medium, it's just going to slow it down, I think, unless there's something in particular, unless you're able to cut it to a point where, you know, you can get to where you're trying to get to when it came to like faith and whatnot, when she's asking, why do people have to die? And then that just kind of leads back into Sharon, you know, because, you know, got a little bit on that, go in that direction. Even in the, and I'm going to take this back to the miniseries. They made the Sharon character kind of like a new age person. She had like the crystal hanging off her neck and all this. But, you know, with that though, they're going to have more time. If they were brought that to fruition, they'd have more time to, flesh out everything and put those subplots back in. Yeah. Kind of like I'm going to guess what they're doing with the new reboot of Harry Potter, where they're allowed to take these seasons and do a book each season. They get to flesh out a lot more than they did with the films. Right. I'm not sure what in the world they intend to do with this legacy trilogy, but let's go this direction. Now, if you were able to take it away from David Gordon Green and Blumhouse, and you wanted an Exorcist trilogy, who would you hand it to? I wouldn't give it to Taika Waititi or anything like that.
No. He'd have one-liners and shit.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. There was I don't know if you had seen that movie, what is it? It was called Antichrist with Willem Dafoe. Mm-hmm. It was that German director. I probably would have handed to him just because of certain shots were pretty impressive, especially when you're on the inside of the hearse and the people are walking behind it after the little child dies, and you can hear the rain and whatnot tapping on the window as it's driving. And the mud.
Like Lanthos or something like that.
Somebody who would give it a whole different perspective that you wouldn't expect jump scares from, or the overuse of a lot of these shots, music and whatnot. Because it's almost like there's a lack of, say, music, sound in that film. In The Exorcist is well done.
Osgood Perkins. He made the Black Coat's daughter.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
That would be a potential. Which is the son of Anthony Perkins. I didn't know that. He wrote and directed this. Yeah, his name is Osgood Perkins. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen this?
I don't think so. Can you get it a little closer?
Black Coat's daughter.
Black Coat's. Yeah, I've heard about it. I haven't seen that one yet.
Check it out. Because he eases into things. It's really creepy. It's really strange. It's one you really got to focus in on, because you know she goes back and forth. You know what I mean? You go, but it stars Emma Roberts, and it's made, like I said, it's written and directed by Osgood Perkins, the son of Anthony Perkins, and he does a great job.
Awesome.
Maybe him, maybe. Because he's a slow burn, and he lets you build it up. He doesn't try to rush into it. It's just like anything. There ain't nothing good that you rush and run right into. And that goes for filmmaking. That goes for sex. It don't matter what it is. You take your time getting into it. You don't run into it.
What was the year on that film?
Let me see.
Was that before 2016?
It is 2016.
Okay, right about in that cusp. Because the thing I worry about is the producer's production getting muddled with, you know, you've got somebody out there that's going to tell the director what to do and what they expect them to put in.
Right. They allowed him to do his own thing and make his own film. And this right here is already a cult classic. This is already
Awesome.
well respected and well liked. So I definitely recommend it. Yeah, I did see Antichrist. That is so fucked up, man. Antichrist, the first few minutes you find out that their child has died. And the worst thing in the world, he's doing therapy on his own wife. They lost their child. And he's doing the therapy on it. That is such a bad call.
It's got some brutal scenes too, especially that one where that guy Defoe's character gets knocked out after they were having sex, and she had like a log or something and just gave it to him in the junk, and I guess the pain must have been so much that he passed out. And then she drills a hole in his leg and puts that, it looked like a sharpening wheel, a big stone. It was just so bizarre.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's one of those I got to watch it a few other times just to kind of get more into it and try to absorb some of what's going on. That one's recommend that one. Okay, I'll have to watch that one.
You definitely have to watch it more than once, and you definitely have to watch it. Shit can't be going on around you. You got to be able to pay attention to it.
Right. That's a good movie then.
Oh yeah. Most
that
definitely.
Would be a good movie. That'd probably be definitely something to pay attention to.
After you watch it, let me know what you think.
Okay. I can do that. We'll do a show.
Jump scare are horrendous to see now in days. I love Nanette says I love Antichrist. It's one of my favorite newer movies.
Now who said that?
Nanette.
Oh, cool.
Gino says Karis's dream is disturbing. He grieving about his mama. He sees her and trying to get a hold of her, but she can't because he needs to find his salvation, and he fears that she's descended into hell, losing his faith. Yeah. Well, and, you know, and the demon tells him that she's there. You know what I mean? You want to leave a message, you know? It's like, yeah. Oh, it says the laziest jump scare I have seen was at the end of Unfriended. To me, the laziest jump scares are in all those goddamn Conjuring movies, man. The nuns and shit. Oh my god.
Anymore, so like you just expect it. You can see all the cues coming.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nanette likes that too. You see, Unfriended movie, the stupidest waste of time films that I ever saw. You see, Unfriended, saw in theaters, and characters are unlike, But would you want to show off any of your memorabilia or anything like that?
What's that?
Would you want to show off any of your cool Exorcist?
Oh, I was trying to think of something here.
Show something we probably never seen.
Something you haven't seen?
That we probably have never seen,
I'm sure. Well, hold on a second.
Because I know everybody's wanting to see stuff.
Okay, I thought this was bizarre. I'm not sure what I'd use it for, though.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So when Thanksgiving rolls around.
Yeah.
There's somebody that put a set of these out, and I think I was on eBay, and I think the newest thing I'm trying to get is this, like, it's a steel engraved tumbler of sort that's got like the Exorcist images on it and stuff. Give me a second. I'm going to kind of put this back.
Have you seen the drapes that you hang over, and it's like full length of the door, so it shows her in her real size while she's possessed?
Yeah, I have.
Like this. I always wanted to put it because my room.
I don't have a spot for that, unfortunately.
I want to put it
basically this did turn into Reagan's room, so it's kind of like this is right over here. Let me see if I can swing the camera.
I want it facing out because this room right here is all the way down at the end of the hallway. I want to put that drape right there hanging, so when people come down the dark hallway, all they see is her standing down there. I think that'd be fantastic.
So I got this fear that she's going to look over at me when I'm not watching. But anytime I come come into this room, you know, it's like I gotta say hi, and we haven't gotten to the point where we hug yet, but that's fine, you know.
Yeah,
But
man.
this is pretty awesome. And there's a few things I haven't had a spot for. I've got this is one of my favorite photos.
Cool.
I got a few other pictures and whatnot. So it's this room's kind of still a work in progress. I got to get some more shelves set up. I mean,
Have you ever walked in?
I think it'd be
and
awesome just
turned the
to
light
kind of.
on?
What's that?
Have you ever walked in without turning the light on and seen that kind of off in the distance in the dark?
No, but when I did put her together, the first time, because this is like a downstairs room, and I keep thinking in the back of my head she's going to follow me up the stairs.
That's that imagination I was talking about. Yeah.
Or she'll be doing something. It's just funny because I plugged her in and I didn't expect her to go off so soon, and all of a sudden she started talking. And my cats were in here, and they just freaked out and they ran out the room. And yeah, I've got that. I've got that, and she was loud too. I didn't realize because there's an option to put an external speaker on there, and I didn't know if I'd need one.
Yeah.
So once I plugged her in, I had one of those foot pad things set up for her, right?
Yeah.
I plug her in, and right off the bat, she's talking because I guess there's like a sensor in her chest. Let me see. Let's turn it this way. Right about here, there's like one of those motion sensor deals. So when she's talking, she does. Actually, I could probably plug her in right now.
Yeah.
Give me a second. Let me see if I can find the plug.
Okay. I'm so curious what she says. That's great.
She'll go off.
She says, JK, I would say Infinity and Dark Web was at least watchable. Dark Web aspect is more terrifying. I don't mind the unfriended movies. I'm not sure if they made any more since then. Good night. Hey, good night. You know, I want to check out that one out. Okay, my friend didn't hear me because that's something that could conceivably happen. That's the whole thing, man. Unless she's connected in the Dark Web, it's a lot more on the reg than you think. I would like to stand that thing up in a dark room to where you come before you turn the light on, you can kind of see it off the corner. That'd be cool as hell. You can just see it going. You know what I'm saying? Yep, definitely. Printed Dark Web is much better. Characters aren't that bad. They're more regular people. Yeah, I would have to agree. Like,
that's interesting. I might have plugged in the wrong thing, so I'm not sure. If she goes off while we're talking, then we'll know.
That'd be cool. What did she say?
She's got a bunch of phrases.
Like from the movie? Or?
Yeah, stuff from the movie. The head turns backwards, and there's a projector lens back here so that you'll see the Pazuzu face come up on the back wall.
Cool.
While her head's turning around. Yeah, I got way too much stuff around here right now. I keep her shut off just because, you know, in the middle of the night, I don't want to hear her going off for any reason because I've got cats and they'll run around in here and suddenly I'm listening to Reagan going off. It's like, it's kind of like having those little toys at the bottom of the toy box go off while you're sleeping.
Right. Yeah, just for no reason. Right, nothing's been moved or nothing. Just for some reason they go off. Yeah. Nothing's moved. I would like to have the one that was in the film. Linda Blair said it's the only thing that scared her about making that film because everybody asked her, "Was you scared?" Didn't know I'm scared with the makeup and everything, but the thing sitting right beside me, she said that scared me.
Yeah. You
know the one the head turns around. Yes.
Definitely. Well, she's got that. I think there's like a few shots of her sitting next to it, and she looks back at the camera and does that whole thing with her eyes, like
she said that.
She's looking back at it.
See, well, what I want to do is I want to talk about a few different things here that nobody else has talked about. Like I didn't talk about the fact that they were both injured during the making. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's different little things like that that's always talked about. I tried to touch on a few different things that weren't necessary. You know, hopefully I'll have a successful with that.
Oh, as far as like say
our
the manner that they did the film, especially the
just everything.
Yeah, just everything.
I
Definitely.
just want, I'm going to touch
I
on
don't
a few
think it
different
was.
things.
I don't think this was. This movie was probably not the only one that would go through what they did for to get the effects going. You know, like if you look at what they were doing in the 70s, say like when you didn't have permission or get permits for certain things, you had to kind of do it on the run in a way. I think that one scene from like Maniac where he
Mm-hmm.
jumps up on that guy's hood and blows him with the
Boom.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think they did that, and then they had to take off before the cops
Yes.
showed up, if I remember
Yes.
right.
Yeah. There was a car that pulled up here, and they popped the trunk and shit open, and they hopped in and took off and got out of the way real quick. Yeah,
This
because
all
they,
this yeah,
he actually shot a shotgun.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
That
I think
scene's
they
in
were
my.
still in that whole mentality. They were still doing the like the old school back then,
Yes.
you know, and that was probably to me like for like The Exorcist, that was still the old school stuff going on, you know, with the
On
gun
location.
firing. The, I mean, they're pretty much inventing all these effects as they went along, trying to do The Exorcist. What got me was there any real lawsuit or whatnot when it came to say Linda Blair or Ellen Burstyn when it came to what they had to go through
Yeah.
physically, you know, after their injuries? Because I
Like jerking
know
and
Linda
bursting back.
Blair was
Yeah.
never the same. She ended up with like I think scoliosis because of
Well, yeah,
that
because the thing that hooked
mishap.
to her came loose, and it was smacking her in
Yep,
the back.
yep,
And then Ellen
yep.
Burstyn, they did that shit on purpose. Ellen Burstyn,
Oh yeah,
and
definitely. Yep.
and then shooting off the shotgun so that Jason Miller would turn like this, and then they put the phone ringing in there. He said that pissed him off. I guess he told
Oh
him, "Hey,
yeah.
I'm an actor. You don't need to do that. I'm an actor. You don't need to pull that shit. Don't do that again." Friedkin just did that shit, but it was successful. It worked. I think, and this is just my opinion, and I think for many reasons, the fact that it was the first one to win an Academy, first horror movie, considered horror movie to win Academy Award, let alone two of them, nominated for several. Um, it broke box office records, everything. I think it
Sure.
is, and I mean, as far as all movies go, I think the original Exorcist is the most well-made movie ever made.
Yeah, I'd
Everything
say so too.
everything involved, I think it is. Like he made the perfect movie for what he wanted to make. I've never seen anything better made, and that goes for The Godfather. Any of them, I think The Exorcist is more well made.
I don't know how far he would have went, like as far as like the effects or what he had done on the set. That is Friedkin.
Should he slap the dude?
Depending on like, yeah, he wanted that. He wanted the reality. He didn't want you to act. And you know, Father O'Malley wasn't an actor. He was a priest. So
Right.
how do you push that? And you got Jason Miller. I mean, the camera loved him, I guess, but I guess he was kind of fumbling on a few things when he was acting. It's not like he was that well seasoned in front of the camera. You know, I'm not saying anything, trying to say anything bad about him, but it's just kind of like what would justify him having to do the gunshots. I mean, he wanted a real reaction. I guess there's just certain things you can't do.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when he made the comments about when they used the real priests, you can't fake that kind of piety.
Right. I think it's cool that we almost got Stacy Keach playing Father Karras.
Right.
He even got paid because he was on contract to do it, so they paid him because he told Jason Miller, yeah, you can come out here, you can pay for it, you can come out here, and I'll give you a screen test finally, because he kept harassing him. He said, but just know that when I say no, that we already got it cast, and I tell you that again, that you already knew this. But the camera liked him so much, and it worked out so well, he decided to not, to pay this guy and not even use him.
Right.
That's crazy. Definitely made the right decision. Great casting, man. The casting is unreal.
Yeah, definitely.
She wouldn't even.
It almost sounds like what happened with, I forget the guy's name. The one who played on Full Metal Jacket. The one who played Sergeant Gunnery Hartman, the senior drill instructor. They already had somebody in that role that they were going to use, but then he had pressed that whole, how well he did that they ended up using him somewhere else in the film.
Oh yeah.
I remember. He was the guy that it was the guy that was at the gun in the helicopter.
Yeah. Okay.
You were going to use him, but I guess it's almost like in a very similar situation
Yeah. That
because
was
I don't think he was even considered for the part until he started,
right.
pushing himself in there, and I just couldn't see anybody else not
No,
playing that part big time.
no. That's a whole other subject that Kubrick is. I love the fuck out of Kubrick too. Clockwork Orange is one of my favorite films too. It's definitely top 5 or 6. They're all in top 5 or 6. But yeah, The Exorcist falls at like number 2 ever. 1 or 2 it
What
bounces
was
back.
3? You said there was like 3 of them. One was Halloween, and then there was The Exorcist. What was the third one?
Well, I have a top 5 that rotates.
Oh, it's top 5. Okay.
You got Halloween. You got The Exorcist. Exorcist is always 1 or 2, and so is Halloween. Okay, so those are out of the way. My next 3 would be the original Black Christmas,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Night of the Living Dead.
Original Night of the Living Dead.
Yes.
What did you think of the Dawn of the Dead? I think it was it Dawn of the Dead, the remake?
Not bad. It's not a bad remake because they know what they are. They make it their own thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one actually.
You know, I love the original Dawn of the Dead too. I used to prefer the original Dawn of the Dead, but as I've gotten older, Night of the Living Dead has become my favorite of that trilogy, and I consider it a trilogy. I don't consider all the other ones. I consider Night, Dawn, and Day.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny that you bring that up too, the Night of the Living Dead, because I was just thinking about the little girl that was down. I think it was in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
They find she's on one of my thumbnails for that Exorcist. My thoughts on the Exorcist 2023. I used her image because she just has that look. She's got the thing. It's just like black and white and just kind of gives you that impression of like the old films.
Yeah.
So I went with that. I thought it was pretty cool.
They didn't know what they were doing yet. That's the whole thing with the whole zombie aspect was still, that kind of zombie was brand new. And now after that movie, you never seen a zombie grabbing a knife and stabbing somebody to death. But right. I loved that aspect in that.
Yeah,
I thought that was extra creepy. And then the sounds that goes with it, that, and she's screaming and it kind of echoes. Right. That to me is the creepiest part of that whole movie. But yeah, let's see if we've got any other shit going on here. I appreciate you having this conversation with me, man.
Oh yeah.
Not even $1 billion. I'd go to Baron Vaughn's house. You got people wanting to come over. You got people wanting to come over and see your shit, man. The remake of Night and Dawn.
I gotta like put a camera on some of this stuff, but it's a small bit. This was actually here. I'll show you something that I bought a long time ago. I haven't been able to find again.
Hey, Grim.
Found it online, maybe late 90s. It's a figure, a PVC figure.
Cool.
It was handmade. I can't remember how much it cost me at the time, but I was afraid to even open it when I first got it. And then I had it on a shelf. And so just having that image, I always had to put it on the shelf kind of like that.
Right.
Because I couldn't look at it anymore, And even on the box, it says, so realistic, you can smell her.
Wow.
And it's like a 1:6 scale resin kit. So it's just pieces that you actually have to put together and then paint. And
that's a resin model.
I never wanted to paint it because I never wanted to mess it up. I was always afraid I was going to mess up the paint job.
I've never done the resin ones. I put together a whole crap load of the old monsters from the plastic, the plastic level 3 models. I've done a lot of those. It's where you have to trim, sand, paint, and glue the level 3. But I've never done resin yet. I've always kind of wanted to because they got some.
Wasn't there a company a long time ago that was putting out those Universal monsters, and you glue them together and like the faces and whatnot would be like glow in the dark, and they set them on the sets. I had that when I was like 6 or 7. I was not very good at doing the painting and the gluing. I didn't have the patience for them, but you look at the box and it's like, oh, that's what I want. But you know, like
I,
I never
I,
could get to the painting. I just left it alone and glued it together to where I think it was like a Dracula one that the arms would go up and down when you press the back because it had like a rubber band or a spring or something in the back.
it was Monogram made them, but the original company that came out with the Universal Monster models was Aurora. There's a company called Aurora.
I think that's what it was. Yeah, I think it was that because I had that. I had a Frankenstein figure, and I think I had Phantom of the Opera.
There was Wolfman. There was
yeah, that one too.
Lately they've come out with the Invisible Man, and that's my favorite. They got Bride of Frankenstein. That one's badass too. Do you have this Exorcist?
Yes, I've got two. And the one,
this one and the bloody.
Yeah, I got the bloody one too. Hold on a second. Let me
bloody
pull it off the shelf.
Cool.
I got all these little figures and whatnot.
That's really cool. That's my singular Exorcist
on a boat.
Because...
kind of just But yeah, it's kind of set. It's kind of set in the shelf a little bit, kind of propped. But I don't know if I can get it out without taking the shelf apart. One's signed by Linda Blair.
Very cool.
So here's the one that's signed by Linda Blair, and this is the one that's got the blood. And that's the one you want to try to look for because that's like the limited
blood. Yes.
The limited. These are a real pain. The bobbleheads. These, if you even order them online, you want to make sure. I wouldn't even order them online just because the plastic that they use is really brittle, and too often I've seen them broken when they come to you in the mail. It's probably better if you were in a shop or where whoever sells them, you probably want to buy it when it's either out of the box or check the box before you buy it, because these just tend to be too much a little bit. I mean, it's something I would want, but and her neck's all twisted.
Cool. Do you have the one with her? Do you have the NECA with her in the bed where her head turns around? Not the bobblehead, but the one that the head turns around. Cool. I figured you did. I have that from it. I have an original Warner Brothers VHS.
It's a hard to get her on this. The shelves are a little shallow, so I had her on the bottom here.
Very cool. Still in the box. Also.
Kept her in the box. Yeah. Keeping her in the box.
Have you seen?
Here's the Reagan McNeil $1 bill.
Very cool. Yeah. Yeah, I've been wanting to get one of those. Yeah, those are cool. Was you in my chat when I showed the pictures of the upcoming 4K covers to it? To the new
was that the ones? Were those from like the Reddit?
No, this is from Cinema Museum here. Here,
I think I might have missed it. Oh, okay, here we go. Yeah, when are those going on sale? Do you know?
I'm guessing a pre-order sometime this month. There's that
specific place you have to order from though, because I keep seeing them just like in one location, and it's like no one else is advertising.
It's going to be a pre-order out somewhere. I'm guessing they haven't announced the exact time of pre-order yet, but it's going to be released September, I think 27th, and which means your pre-order will be about July. And there's one of them that I'm showing up on the screen right now.
Yep.
It's going to be 4K. It's going to have all kinds of stuff here. Here, I'll show you some more pictures. I have a bunch of them here. It's not going to be cheap. It's also going to come out in 4K on through Warner Brothers. There's another one of the case. I love that one. I think that is fucking awesome. And here's another version. There's 3 different covers. It's 4K Blu-ray. It's going to come with all kinds of shit. There's going to be a steelbook inside. Come on, motherfucker, hurry up. All right, here we go.
So there's 3?
Yeah, there's going to be 3 different covers. God damn it, I pushed it. My equipment's not working. No. I'm trying. There's another one. Let me see. And I have another picture here that shows all the shit that comes with it too, man. There's gonna be all kinds of shit. There's depending on the cover that you get, is the booklet that you'll get. There's another one.
Okay.
And let me show you the full out shit here. I gotta get to it. Let me see. Let me try to find the full thing here. These pictures are so little, man. So bear with me, you guys. There's so little in this because I was using my phone to do all this stuff. So okay, now hold on. Let me get this one. This is the last one of the pictures I have up here right now. And this is it. I love that cover right there. And then there's, you know, come on.
Does it want to come up?
It's just it. Well, I don't have all of them like I did, but you get the gist of it. But yeah, they're beautiful. And the pre-order is going to be through a company called Cinema Museum.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember reading something about that. I was just wondering why they haven't really pushed on advertising as much.
Well, last year they pushed it and they put out a pre-order because all three of those covers are only going to have 300 each. They're limited to 300
okay.
Each.
They're probably already pre-ordered then, I would think.
Well, no, that was for the Blu-ray.
Okay.
But they stopped it and decided to go ahead and make it for this year since it's the 50th anniversary and to make it 4K instead of just Blu-ray. So we got another shot. So
that works,
just keep on looking on Cinema Museum because it tells it says coming 2023 and it will be released like September 27th, but it doesn't tell when to pre-order it. So you just gotta watch it. So yeah. Otherwise, you're stuck getting just the regular Warner Bros. I want that one. So,
what's that?
I want that one. I don't want just a regular little Warner Brothers 4K. I want that big black fucker, that thick.
Oh, that big one, yeah.
Oh man.
Let me see if there's anything else. Hold on a second. This, from what I can understand, is a dog toy. So,
okay.
Squeaky ones. So when your dog goes, you have him chew on Reagan for a while. But there was something that had come out that I was pretty impressed with. I don't know where she is. Oh, hold on. There she is. This is awesome. And it walks. So I don't know if you've seen this one. I can't really set her down, but you press the hand and she walks across the floor or the wherever you have her. But so the cats usually freak out when they see this thing, see the feet move, so it's walking around, and I don't really have a place for it in front of me, right? But yeah, I can't remember what else.
I've always wondered. See if you can answer this.
So the hand moves around like that, and then it walks around. But it's pretty slick. I thought it was pretty cool.
I have a question. I always wonder. I want to get your opinion on one more thing. What do you think? You know, when Harris comes back in there, you know, when Marin makes him leave the room, he goes downstairs, and Chris is like, "Is she gonna die?" And he looks at her and he goes, "No." And he goes
it's
back
almost
up
like he can have it happen in a sense.
And then sees Marin dead on the bed, and Reagan's sitting up in the corner against a post on the bed, and she looks just like this. What the hell?
Has that it's almost like she doesn't know what happened in a way, but you know, like in the book, she's like she's saying, you know, still talking to the body, saying, you know, kind of under the effect that, you know, trying to get you would have lost to blah 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 blah. Come on, Karis, bring him back and all this and whatnot. She's still tied to the bed in the book, so it's kind of like it always got to me on. Okay, Karis pulls her off. And what was it? Somebody was saying, I think somebody was saying something to the effect that, you know, earlier in the film when he's on that body bag, that he's probably going to be beating the shit out of somebody.
Right.
Toward the end.
Yeah.
It's kind of like having Sly Stallone as Father Karis.
Yeah. She goes from that
to you got a really big mouth, you know.
Right. But yeah, I think it's great because she looks so curious. Like, what? she's looking at it like, what the hell is going
Yeah,
on?
then it kind of realizes that he's dead and starts laughing. But
Yeah,
I'm not sure why they went that route.
I love it though. I love how she looks like that. Looking at it like, what
Sure,
the
yeah,
what
but
he just died that
I'm
easy?
not sure what brought that along. It just strays away from the film because like in the book, you're reading how he's doing this. Come on, take me on. You can do this to a little kid, but what about something bigger and stronger? And
Right,
instead, we get her thrown on the ground. I guess that's what we wanted, right? Is that what it was? To
right.
see
She's
him
just
beat the
beating her
crap
ass.
out of beat the crap. But nowadays, it's almost like, oh, he's beating up
Right.
that little girl. Da, da, da,
Beating
da,
on a
da, da,
kid,
da.
yeah,
Yeah,
abuse.
yeah. You wouldn't see that
Way too
now.
sensitive. Way too sensitive.
Yeah, that's true.
Every little thing.
It's
They will
kind of
nitpick.
like the crucifixing. Are you ever going to see something like that again? Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably
No,
not.
hell no.
Or
It
even to
couldn't be
have
done again.
her a little girl like that possessed. I think the girl that's going to be in the Legacy one is going to be older. Even in the show, in the Fox television series, I think the girl who got possessed, the one that Casey Rants was like 18 or 19 or something like that. They didn't go with a little kid. And for the time that had passed, I can't imagine the Angela Rants character having children any younger than that anyway.
Yeah. Hey man, why are you saying oh my god because of that picture? Man, have you ever seen The Exorcist? I'm curious about this. See, Man is new to horror. I'm not sure if you ever seen her on
Or have
here or
she seen
anything.
it?
I'm not sure. That's what I'm asking her because after I showed that picture, now she has an emoji going, "Oh my god!" So I'm just curious if she's ever seen it. I'm not sure if she's ever seen that face before, like that. So I'm just curious. One more little thing here. See if I can get an answer here. Have you seen it? Is that what you was? Oh my god! And was the face? Oh, the little doll is scary. You think the little doll is scarier than Reagan? Oh, you seen the first one? Oh hell yeah, man. No wonder you're able to go through both.
This one kind of reminds me of like on Beyond the Door when the kids are kind of like talking amongst themselves. And the daughter was talking about the dolls that are sitting around watching them, and they show that one doll walking, and there was that song. I forget. It was like something like "What begins with K."
Yeah,
That one freaked me out when I was
that
growing up.
that's a
That
creepy
scene, and then
film. Beyond
and
the
then
Door
the
is.
mom, and then the daughter goes running back to the mom because the whole house is going nuts, and then all of a sudden her head just kind of turns around, and
Yeah,
then the
smiling
daughter
and shit.
screams. That was bizarre.
That
That
smile
was
was
bizarre.
creepy. Yes. Um,
And I
well,
used to
guys,
wonder, the theme that they had for that Beyond the Door. I used to wonder if it was actually tubular bells with a few notes missing.
I don't
I couldn't
remember the
tell
tune.
for sure. It's kind of got that. Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah,
dun. I couldn't tell if maybe they just took a few notes out or tried to do their own rendition of Tubular Bells.
it's been a long time, so I
But
don't remember the
what I
tune.
thought was the certain things in that film that bothered me were like some of the freeze frames.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when she's got the little things connected to her head,
Right.
and they just kind of did a freeze frame on her, and you're looking at that for like, especially when you're a kid.
That one has got a vibe to it that is creepy, man. There's certain parts of that is funky.
Anyway,
That
this
was
is
that,
uh,
that
this is the
complexity.
one that Karen and I watched. This is the Turkish Exorcist film. So
Yeah, yeah, I've got to see that. I've never
and
seen
here's
it.
my copy of Beyond the Door.
Yeah, I got that one, and I got this one. I got this covered. Cool.
And I think this was a German one that came out. I think it went by a different title at the time. This is a 1974 German Exorcist takeoff. Oh, that's a different cover. That's cool.
Yeah.
I think this also went by Magdalena on this one.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Got Friedkin uncut. Oh, one of the cool things about what is it, Linda Blair's World Heart Foundation website
Mhm.
is that you can get a lot of collectible stuff. Like here's a copy of Repossessed that she signed. So
That's cool, man. I
you can get a lot
I
of
haven't been
autograph
signed
stuff
by her
there.
yet.
Oh, also, let's see. I had to get this one. This came from her website as well. It was like COVID makes my head spin, make it stop.
So she's embraced it a little bit more lately, because I know a few years
Oh,
back,
definitely.
whenever she'd go to the conventions, all she would do was talk about her animal, her activist
Sure.
shit.
But if she
And,
can mix it,
and
if she can mix it and make money and direct it back to her foundation, that works out.
but
I,
it sounds like that she learned that, because I heard she was pissing off a lot of people that went to see her. That's all she talked about, and
oh
they
yeah,
didn't want to hear
I'm
that.
not surprised.
They didn't want to
I'm
hear
not
that.
surprised. Mm-hmm.
They want to hear about her films, Hell Night, Savage Streets, The Exorcist. That's what they want to hear.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that before. That was it you that said that went to one of those conventions and then that's all she could talk about, or was
No, I knew somebody that did, yeah,
oh
and that's
okay,
all she could talk about, and it pissed them off. They felt like they were robbed. You know what I mean? Like she would not talk. She did not want to talk about the films at all. This was several years back. And I was like, damn, that made me not even want to meet her. But now that she's starting to, I've heard she's starting to loosen up to it and actually talk about it now. So it's a smart thing to do if she wants to make money. She's just going to piss
oh
people off. But
definitely,
that's why they go there. You know?
definitely. I think if I were to if I was possibly able to interview her on the channel, I'd probably kind of mix it up a little bit. That way, I kind of keep her intrigued. Talking about her foundation and whatnot. Because I could probably see her doing a show if she wanted to do something like that, especially on the compound or wherever she's doing this. And a lot of those monies are coming in. That's where I mentioned. I think it was on Karen's channel that I should have worn my hoodie. It's this hoodie that looks like the Father Marin in the Shaft of Light, except it's her standing there with her dog, and it says the Rescuer instead of the Exorcist, but it's the same setup. It's not bad. It's cool. I can understand where she's coming from on that.
Right.
Another good place that I think has a lot of cool stuff is like the Spirit of Halloween.
Yes.
Shopping that. I would probably shop the online store before going to like one of the like when they do the setups on Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
When they have their because ours is kind of iffy. It's I'm living in Anchorage, Alaska. What are we really gonna bring down here? There's not that many people. So like with Reagan over here, the animatronic, I ordered her online because I wasn't sure if my store was going to have her, and I had to have her. I liked it better than the one they had before. With the eyes are all whited out and whatnot, and have that projector in the back. That was slick. So I figured, yeah, I think I'll just invest some money in it. And it was a simple build. I've never built one of these, put one of these together. It was real simple. And good thing she's on it's kind of like a stand. She doesn't have legs, so she can't run up the stairs. So that was a plus. She can't follow me around.
How much did that cost you?
It was like 200 something.
That's not as bad as I thought.
It wasn't bad. Yeah, it wasn't bad. And it's not a bad figure.
Right.
It's definitely not a bad figure. I'm kind of reluctant in like a lot of those custom made busts that are made like out. I don't know how far, whether they're in the continental U.S. or not, but I have this fear that depending on what it's made of, I just don't have the faith in the postal service to keep it from getting broken. I'd hate to have that happen, especially when you're putting a lot of money into it. And I've expressed that with some of these people that are asking like hundreds of dollars for some of these busts.
Right.
And it's like, looking at it and how much time they put in some of these things, especially when they're painting the eyeballs and then placing them, it's quality work. You can totally tell, but the shipping part scares me.
Because they're not careful with your shit. they do it real quick and they just toss it along. So
Yeah,
yeah,
they do. And that's what I'm afraid of. I'd rather drive out there, pick it up myself, or have
right.
somebody, pick it up for me and then somewhere along the lines meet them there.
Right,
One
right,
of
yeah.
those things. I'll fly out and bring it myself. Something like that.
Right.
Yeah, I'd rather
That's
do
why I
that.
don't order steel books. Because I'm a big physical media collector. That's why I try not to order steel books online because every
Oh,
time they end up with a dent or something in them.
oh,
You know,
sorry
and
about that.
once you dent a steel book, it's ruined. You know.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. But back to, say, Spirit of Halloween, I found this on there. I thought this was an awesome mug,
Yeah, it is.
just with all the
Yeah,
the
yeah,
because I drink a lot of coffee, so of course I'm gonna have a lot of mugs.
yeah. I have my times where well I'll drink a lot of coffee and then I won't drink any for a while. Then it just depends. Like once a month I'll have a streak of 3 or 4 straight days.
And then there's like
Um,
the Funko Pop. Had to get that.
yeah, there's quite a few things that I want to get. I just haven't done it yet. Right now I just got mostly the physical media and stuff like that. Um, well, I guess that'll about cover it. Once again, thanks a lot for joining me to talk about this, man. I've been wanting to talk to somebody with that kind of passion about this film for a long time,
Here,
man.
here
And
we'll bring this up from Mayanne here. Living Dead dolls for her house.
I almost grabbed that. It was like $60, and I
It
figure I
depends
probably
on where
should
you
grab
go.
it.
You can shop around a little bit, get it for a good price, because like there's a lot of things I'd love to have, but I just
Those
I
are gonna
just
go
don't
like.
sink that much money into.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of customs that you find on eBay, especially, that look awesome, but then it's like, do I really want to pay $400 for a Father Karras figure?
Right.
You know, since it's a custom, but then you find the limited edition items like like the bed that we were talking
Mm-hmm.
about, or even that bobble, or even the stairs. Those are limited anymore. Those are those things you want to
Well,
save,
definitely.
and you can usually find a pretty good price as long as like you check out eBay once in a while. I ended up buying a lot of those what is it, studies in horror books, and those are
Yeah.
like almost 500 a pop, even
Yeah.
used, just because they're limited. Uh, and I paid like 200 for one, and didn't realize it was a hardcover. And those
Right.
are even more. Those are even more expensive if the guy knew what he had. Especially it's signed by. It's got like four. It's autographed like 4 times by the authors and whatnot. It's a hardcover, and that's something to probably be like about $2,000 maybe. But I didn't pay that much, so it's like, yeah, I'm gonna hang on to this. Some of these are kind of like an investment side, and I still gotta bring down my books. I've got them like all set away in storage. A lot of them I'm using for reference, especially the one that I showed you. That's the screenplay, and I figured, like,
That's
anybody
cool.
who likes gets into the books and whatnot, that's probably I would recommend that one.
Uh,
The other publication that Blatty put out, it was right after The Exorcist came out, the movie. So you
yeah.
learn a lot more about what was going on behind the scenes. That one, there's a few other books that are out there that are really informative. And that Cemetery Dance, if anybody's in the comic book stores or magazines or whatnot that have like the used ones, that one's a big recommend right there.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Cool.
Cemetery Dance. I don't know what their connection is with a lot of the Exorcist stuff, but it seems like, yeah, I've been tempted to even ask them about what happened to the miniseries, if they even knew. It's kind of like, okay, so Blatty had a screenplay written, and that's it. I even asked his son. He doesn't even know what happened. They didn't get that. I think maybe what might have happened, in my opinion, is they didn't want to go that route because it's a mini series and it just ends right there. They couldn't do anything more with it. So if you turn it into a television series that you could just build off of, I think they went that route instead.
If you notice, I went with the purple theme tonight.
Oh, okay.
I got purple sticking across here. I got the purple here, especially for the original Exorcist colors, which was black and purple.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
um,
definitely.
everybody go over and sub to Exorcist Reviews, man. He's got a really great channel. I've been watching. I've watched tons of the videos. It's all really good. Doing a great job. And thank you once again, man. And we'd hook up and do something else maybe sometime.
Here, let me just say this on my channel, and since we didn't really go that direction, one of the things I've been trying to focus on um, are the things that you don't hear about, that
Right.
nobody seems to talk about. You know, like you see What Culture and Looper and all these other channels, they usually talk about the same things over and over again. I almost did a YouTube called Top 10 Things YouTube Didn't Know About The
Right.
Exorcist, because they keep saying this is what you don't know, and then I'll go back on there. Yeah, I already knew all this. You know, tell
Yeah.
me something I haven't. Go back on my channel,
I,
something like that.
I attempted to go certain places that nobody usually goes. I at least tried to do that. So hopefully everybody learned something here. I learned a couple of new things. I thanks again, man, and I will be in touch. But thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, it was fun. We could probably do this again. Was there anything else you would probably want to talk about on a second video?
Probably I could probably come up with some stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just kind of shooting off the hip. I didn't know what to expect, so
Yeah,
I felt a little.
yeah.
You had a couple questions. I was kind of like, I don't remember that. I'll have to go back and look it up because like I've always got like stuff going on, and I'm usually going the direction with like that Elky Summer thing. I would never have known that to go that direction had it been for the that old 1986 what was it called, Hollywood Ghost Stories with John Carradine.
Okay.
Because this is the one where it was talking about the poltergeist, and I caught that in the novel. It was brought up in somebody's other, like a podcast. I'm like, ding, like a bell goes off, and so I had to look it up, trying to like line the times up, that the possibility. I even sent a message to William Peter Blatty's son and asked him, "Did your dad know Elkie Summer?" And he said, "Yeah." And they had done that Shot in the Dark film. So yeah, that's perfect connection, because around that time, that's when they were having those issues at the house. So, and then I asked him, well, did he mention anything about her house and all the whatnots and whatnot? And he said, yeah. So I could totally believe that he incorporated that into his book. That Chris McNeil knew a friend who lived in Beverly Hills, who was also an actress that was having poltergeist issues. I was trying to sell her house because she insisted there was things going on. So it's like, there's just those little things, like he's reflecting back on his real life situations and incorporating it into this novel.
That's something I just started hearing about. Yeah, I mean, just here maybe the last month or so. So that's definitely a direction that we could go. I mean, there's a lot of different things that we can still touch on.
Oh, definitely. There's always something that seems to be pulled out of some of these things. I'm also looking into probably rewatching The French Connection, and then, just kind of thinking about as far as the direction Friedkin was going at that time, because like the whole situation that was going on with The French Connection, you could almost like just kind of glide yourself into The Exorcist, but then where does it go from there? Because it's like Friedkin said, he wasn't interested in dealing with Father Karras anymore and whatnot.
Right.
Sequel in the beginning. I don't even know if there was any truth in Friedkin wanting to direct. I mean, it might have been brought up for the miniseries.
Yeah.
He may have changed his mind. He might have said, "Nah, I don't want to go that route. I'm done with that." I mean, it's basically, that's what it was. He was like saying, "Yeah, I'm not interested in doing a sequel." He's going to do something else for, instead of dealing with Father Karras, and I think, how did he put it? Father Karras and knives or something.
Yeah.
Some cutting in.
He pretty much covered it.
Yeah, I think he was done with that part. It's like, okay, I get this done, I'm going to move on. I think that might have been the situation, because he might have, like, let's like bringing that back up. Had he done The Exorcist further in his career, after the whole French Connection, and then I can't remember what he did after that, but he may have just turned around and said, I'm not going to go about and do it this way.
Right.
you know, and it might have been a different movie, might have turned out different. But then in that time frame, had he not taken it, who would have? I mean, if we gave it to Kubrick probably would have turned it around and made it his own, and did a whole different thing with it. We probably wouldn't have got what we got. So
I love what we got with The Shining. I love what we got with Clockwork Orange. I don't know that I would have loved him doing The Exorcist.
No, I just he would probably take it over, and that's probably one of the reasons why, like Blatty was saying, that Kubrick basically said Kubrick produces his own stuff, you know, right. And so I'm sure he didn't want, because he did have say on who, you know, like final say on the director, I think it was, and some liberty on what he was able to say, you know, as far as like what was going to happen in the film, because from what I understood, they wanted the production company wanted to cut Marin out totally, have him have the location be in California, because I guess it was easier just to film there.
Yeah.
Instead of, you know, sticking with what basically was a screenplay. You know, the novel's basically a screenplay in its own right. And a first draft. But then when you look at the first draft of the screenplay that he written, it looked more like something you would probably seen on TV.
Yeah.
And then you had Friedkin basically say, well, this isn't the book. He wanted to do the book, like, you know, like in
like,
film.
Well, we can't shoot this. We can't shoot that in the book. Friedkin's like, oh yeah, you want to bet? You know what I mean? Some of the things they said he wouldn't be able to do, he ended up pulling off pretty good.
He had to push boundaries, basically, and came up with what they consider like lightning in a bottle. I mean, it just seemed like everything just came together in that sense. For the longest time, it was like trying to get into Iraq was a pain in the ass. From what I understood, they had to go in with a British outfit because America had issues with Iraq at the time.
Yeah, we want to shoot it someplace and just pretend like it was Iraq.
Yeah, that wasn't going to fly.
He wanted this big, loud music, and he didn't want big, loud music. He just wanted the sound of pickaxes.
Right. The whole reality sense would have been gone, and we wouldn't have been grounded in reality anymore. It's like, okay, if you're going to divert my my disbelief, you're going to fail if you do that. You know,
he made so many enemies making that movie. People he was friends with, he made enemies out of them for life.
And think about all the stuff he shot while he was there. He said there was about like 3.5 hours worth of footage,
right,
just in Iraq. That would have been something to see. It would have made you wonder what would have been cut out. You could probably make a whole new film on it. Just, this is what we did in Iraq, and then do that. You know, that would have made a good film, even a short film. You know, just like on a documentary level kind of thing.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I will be in touch, or you be in touch with me, and we'll figure something out.
Yeah, that works.
All right, man.
I'll probably throw a friend request on Facebook.
Cool.
If that works.
Definitely. All right, man. You have a good night. Everybody else have a good night, and I will talk to you later, man.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
Yep, no problem.
Right.
Let me see here. Trying to get this going. I need to get some besides the damn phone to do this with. Damn thing.
Can you still hear me?